Welcome back to another episode of the FNtasia podcast. I am so happy to be here and to be joined by three amazing gentlemen that are the all-knowing Fortnite analysts, the wonderful big dog Reese Hub. We got Coach Harry in the building and Coach Boop as well. After a long weekend of viewing parties, he's joined us today, and we are here to discuss all things grand finals. How you doing, lads?
Great. I think we should actually start with how are you? You are always last. You're always forgotten about. There's a joke about it every week that no one cares. So I'm going to pretend we do. And I'm asking you, how is Levin right now?
I am good. I'm still on the mend, you know. I'm still not. I think I'm ill. Listen. I won't say what illness I have because I think YouTube don't like that. But I'm ill still. But I soldiered through grand finals.
Not saying what illness you have is more concerning than not, you know?
Yeah.
What can you not talk about on YouTube?
Don't search ST enemy.
Yeah.
No.
Not
that one. Not that kind. But no, I'm good.
You're on broadcast though. It was nice to see you casting.
Yeah, no, it was cool to be casting again. Everyone was super excited about it, but probably more excited than me, to be fair. It was funny because a lot of people had their theories. Like I saw a bunch of tweets where people like, did they split Frankie and Levin up because they hate each other now? Like, and I was like, maybe. I don't know. Nah, really, it was just Takata was more ill than me. He had like a sore throat or whatever. So he was like, "Yo, you want to cast?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
Sounds like you were ill. Takata was really ill. Frankie was sick of your shit. You know, it's a natural switch to put you in the casting rather than into the analyst desk. I see how it is. I
thought you were going somewhere else with that, like Takata's ill.
I really thought it was going somewhere else.
Levin not saying what illness.
Yeah.
Hey, I would never imply such things. Never.
They did go on a trip recently, so
they did.
Yeah, you did too.
They did.
You guys are terrible.
Actually, on a weird note, when Takata last got this illness, which we are not naming up, even though we can now on YouTube, the 19.
Yeah,
when we were at DreamHack, he got it. He confirmed it. I also then got it because I was spending time with him. That was like 2022 DreamHack or something like that. But I came back and then I tested like negative all the time, and then I gave my girlfriend it too. And then I think because obviously we live together, so I feel like there's a trend. Takata's ill. It just seems to spread within the analytical Fortnite community.
That's true. There's something there. We gotta
look into it. Yeah.
But no, it was fun. It was fun casting. It was good to be back on the mic. Enough about me though. Enough about me. How you doing, Boop?
I'm well. Surprisingly well considering we watched NA and E for the first time ever. It was actually kind of enjoyable. I may have less bias towards the European side now, but maybe not after today's podcast and all the stuff we're about to say. But it's been a good weekend.
I was going to say, you have less bias now watching NA, after watching NA.
What
would give you more bias?
No, it gives me more ammunition to throw, essentially, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
at NA for being ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, not ass in certain
less EU bias, but more NA ass knowledge. Yes. Is that what you were trying to say?
I know a lot about NA ass. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Good. Just clarifying.
Ass knowledge is intact.
Interesting start to the podcast. Coach EU bias, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I think everyone's calmed down a little bit now. I'm still getting the Coach Ginger comments every stream. They're locked in, guarantee. But no, it's been good. Grands was a lot of fun to watch. I felt like EU and both EU and NA were a lot of fun to watch, even with the format being, we'll get onto it, but the format not being as good as we wanted it to be. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, all good, ready for the new season.
For the people who don't know, we are doing the podcast on Tuesday. We actually were going to do it on Monday, but Harry tried to dodge, so we moved it just to make sure he would be here for his 3-hour lambasting where we just blame him the whole time. No, it wasn't actually that. It was your birthday yesterday, so happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
It was good. Went to London, went out for the day. It was good fun. It was good fun.
And didn't visit me and Reese?
No.
The cheek of it.
Wow.
But no, it was good fun. It was good fun, and I had to get back today, ready for as you said, 3 hours of abuse. I'm locked in and ready to go.
What's the update with Resub then, the big dog?
Grand finals was fun. So now, basically, new season drops on Friday. So I have my usual just push to try and get some sort of good video done in 3 days, which is absolutely impossible. So this 3-hour podcast taking up 3 hours of the day is also 3 hours of content. So see, basically, if my video is kind of shit, you can come back to this podcast and blame it for missing 3 hours of quality content creation. But yeah, just the usual stress, and then there'll be a new season and all this kind of stuff. So just trying to push through and get something good out,
Yeah, I saw you were VOD reviewing yesterday, and someone in your chat called you the big dog. So like the branding's like sticking it. Like, this
working, man.
Yeah.
I'm
Doing
clearly
global.
forcing this. Yeah. No one else is ever doing it. One guy has commented the big dog, so you know what?
It's
the
working.
rebrand has taken place.
Has it entered the home environment yet, or is
no.
At that stage yet?
No.
What is on your mind at the moment, mate?
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
This is a nickname that Visa wants to stick. So
I mean, I've been saying it for the last, I don't know, 36 months to my girlfriend. Not once has she repeated it back yet. So maybe at some point we're gonna get a dog, and then maybe it'll grow from there. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I do want to say quickly, Reese, I heard you were calling out the Brazil region on your Twitter. You were calling out the whole of Brazil.
Okay, for context here, once the podcast is finished, I highly, highly recommend you go and watch the video I put on my extra channel. Not all of it. It's mainly boring. Just the Brazil part, right? I watched a single game from the Brazil region. A single game. And I actually kid you not, it was the most wild match I've ever seen in my life. It starts off with the team landing on sticks and stones, and he gets a DMR and sees another team who's literally landed on 2 chests. And I mean, it's worse than what we're seeing on EU. The 2 freest kills ever, because these guys are just literally like running in circles, hiding. I was like, are they feeding? Checked. They're not feeding. Just crap, basically. Then we get to another point where one of the players gets knocked, and a guy comes into the box and just looks at the body and just turns and walks away, doesn't finish it. I was like, how is this guy alive? What the actual hell? And like, then the other teammate should have died, but he got the revive up. By the way, they won this game, just as a reminder. His teammate was dead, and they somehow won this game. Next, 6th zone, 100% of the teams in congested side. That is, I've not even watched an OCE console game be that bad. Like, I was blown away. Then the final, like, how it comes down to win. It's a 2v1. They're outnumbered. One guy in the storm healing, and the guy with the med kits jumps in to try and fight him and dies. I'm like, you cannot make this up. Like, this is actually genuinely the lowest of low gameplay I saw.
Do I need to change my region rankings? Is Brazil now the worst region or what?
They've always been.
I know it's not.
Middle East is the worst.
No, definitely not. So I've watched Middle East is the worst.
Yeah, Middle East probably is.
I have watched the winners from every region, every single season, and Brazil is usually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's not as it's definitely like below any. But Jesus Christ, maybe I just picked like the worst game imaginable. Apparently, obviously, we can come on to it later. There was some. Yeah, like there was teamers in first place, the guys I watched. Yeah. There's cheaters that were playing, so I obviously understand there was a lot of like complications going on in the region to make it worse, but it was genuinely some of the actual worst gameplay I've ever seen ever. So
yeah, we'll definitely
so I was
get more
beefing with it. So. Also, just I want to caveat that the tweet I made was let me just read it out to you. It was a picture of the dead side with nothing on it. I said, "Happy to announce."
Can you bring it? We can bring it up, right?
Yeah. Let me send it in the chat. I can't bring it up. I don't think I got the juice to do that. But there you go. I put it in the chat there.
I gotta give you guys the juice. Mate. I'll try.
There you go. Juice it up.
After what happened to Takada, I don't think I want it.
all right.
Yeah, that's the last one. I was like,
there you go. But so what I found interesting about this, basically, you can see, this is the most insane map I've ever seen in my life. Like literally, I have never seen this in my life. And obviously, I said happy to announce that I'll be dubbing my content into Portuguese to reach the Brazil audience who do not know what dead side or central partial zones are. Fun tweet, but like the amount of people who thought I was being serious, and they were like, "Yeah, great news," Finally, can't wait to watch your content. I was like, oh, the sarcasm has not translated well.
Why don't you dub it in other languages though?
Because
Like,
I don't speak Portuguese, which is a bit of a problem, and I
No, but
wouldn't
you
be able
could
to
get someone
quality
else.
control. Yeah, I'd need to get two people though. I need to get someone Portuguese who could dub it, and someone else to confirm that they've not done a horrible job of it.
Get Clutch to do it. Get Clutch to dub it in Portuguese.
He's
So, yeah,
not.
He
trust
would
me.
do it for $0. He would.
Clutch would troll the hell out of you.
yeah. I feel like that's like you've just found the one Portuguese
Yeah.
guy you know, and you're like,
Yeah.
get him
Yeah,
to do
get
it,
him
man.
in. Get him in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
man.
fun weekend for the Brazil region at least.
Okay, well, good to know everyone's alive and well and has had a good time. In terms of what we're going to be talking about today, obviously we're going to be breaking down things from grand finals. I mean, yeah, there's so much to talk about with grand finals, so I think the majority of the show will be spent talking about that. But we're also going to be giving out end of season awards. So we got a bunch of awards we voted on that we'll get through, and then we're going to hand some of those out. And then there's also some fun ones we're gonna discuss and meme and joke about. But yeah, I think we just might as well start with some of the FNCS talk. FNCS Grands is done. Where does this FNCS stack up compared to other recent FNCSs? How does everyone feel about this season in comparison to some of the recent ones we've had? I'll go to you, Harry, because I think you had some thoughts about this on your stream earlier today.
I mean, it's just pretty mid. No, I think I just think it is just like if we go 2-3 years in the future, like obviously the main Peterbot and Pollo thing that will be remembered for forever basically. But I think when it comes to EU, I don't think there's many memorable moments. I think it's just a very average rounds with decent competition, decent storylines, and I don't think it's ever going to be remembered for one of the best FNCSs we've had. I'd probably give it for us. We were talking about on the stream. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. Where it's like it was decent. Nothing really that bad happened. It wasn't obviously like like so many cheating scandals on EU at least, and like a bunch of bad situations. But no, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It wasn't too bad.
It sort of reminds me of the other FNCS, the Swizzy one. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they won, but then it doesn't feel that memorable from their side. Maybe we just don't like Swizzy at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Or you went in the most boring of metas. Me personally, I'd say it's probably like a 5 out of 10, maybe 4 out of 10. The one thing we've had always, and I think it's been a criticism we've had for the FNCS, is always that it doesn't feel as special anymore, especially this year when it's being pushed forward for, various reasons that, apparently there's another FNCS coming in OG Chapter 2 Fortnite or something like that. So like it does feel very rushed, and I think a lot of players are also experience that rush. And it affects the way that it's viewed as well. Like I think also viewership is down a lot in that case for everybody. So it's something does need to change for next year, I think.
I think you're all wrong. Firstly, on actually, I think like season wide, I agree 5 or 6. We're talking a mid FNCS across the board. But I think as far as like a grand finals went, I think that was a good grand finals. And I think Christy said something good in chat. Firstly, most importantly, it was not Mickey Mouse because there was great server performance that we had. We had the best teams on the day. Like look at the top 10 of the leaderboard. Like those were for the most part, like the teams who performed this season, the teams who were doing some of the biggest names all around. They're the teams who prepped the best and played the best, and they won. There obviously was some Mickey Mouse stuff and like disconnects and things like that, but that's like Swizzy disconnected and they won still as well. So it's like it obviously didn't impact too much. It's shit, and obviously it did impact the leaderboards a little bit. But I think from a grand finals perspective, it was great. Obviously, the issue with not having a winning moment because Swizzy and Vinac already won before 12th game was kind of boring for EU. And NA was even more boring because you obviously had Peterbot and Pollo. But in terms of like, there was still like a good spectacle of that. There was a lot of like cool strats that just popped out in the moment that we saw that we haven't really been thinking. There was a lot of surprises in those moments. We had guys like Chapentini who people have been really good all season and kind of people doubted. They all did well. So I think from like a grand's perspective, it was really good, but the entire season was extremely mid, which brought it all down, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was good that we had such a big like meta shift up in Grand specifically. If Grand had played out how like the rest of the meta was like for the weeks leading up to the season, I think it would have felt a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because I think people had sort of gone tired of it. It wasn't the most exciting of metas. I think the fact that we also were in day one Grands going, oh my god, like what's going on with the wings? Oh my god, everyone's playing Storm that's doing really well right now. Like, I think that did definitely add like an element that helped out. But overall, I think I'd agree sort of closer to, I think I'm sort of stuck in the middle. I sort of rated it like similar to Boop, like a 5, in that sort of range. But I do think this Grand's like had its bonuses. I think the fact that we aren't talking about like a lagginess of a Grand was one of the biggest positives that I think goes under the radar. But yeah, in terms of like the storylines, again, it was just one of those things for me where the Peter thing, I actually think I find the Peter thing cooler than most people. I think a lot of people probably got tired of that by the end of the season. But for me, we've seen a couple seasons in Fortnite history where a team's dominated all the way throughout and then they've slipped up the final hurdle. I'm glad that we now finally have at least one example of like that team just dominate, like rolling through a season like that. That for me, I was fine with. In EU, some of it felt a bit lackluster. I feel like, as and this is something I feel as like someone who's on the broadcast, like I feel like we got to do like a better job of, making like that shift up where you have guys like Swizzy and whatnot doing really well, like making those guys feel more important. Like, how do we make those guys feel as important when they do well as like we do when it's like Thomas and Malabuka and Mustache and those guys doing well? Obviously that comes with time because those guys have much more history, blah blah blah. But I think overall the season wasn't bad. It wasn't one of the worst FNTasias we've had. It wasn't one of the best. It was sort of, as Harry said, just mid.
Yeah. You make a good point on that. Like, I think we're in a unique situation now, especially with everything going on practice-wise, which we'll go on to later, is that we have like a big shift in terms of like the top 10 players, right? And I don't know if we're going to run through the top 10 now or run through the top 10 later, so in case people, missed FNCS, NA, or EU. But like the EU top 10 is full of newer-ish names, and a lot of the bigger names ended up falling down. But on NA, I feel like the majority of the good ones are in there, but there's a few in there that are sprinkled through. And I guess what makes it boring for some people is, like you said, the storyline, and people want to see the big boys do well, right? Like everyone wants to see a Thomas HD win, or a Mongo and Savage win, or a Vidil and Reason, or a Seti Kami win, but someone else is going to win, and that's just a part of it now. Like, people are going to be better than other ones, and we're going to have the shift out of the old and the entrance of the new now.
100%. I think, talking on the EU side, and I want to touch on what Levin you said about bigging up EU players, and I do think that comes back to format. Why I do feel like this Grands, we had no storylines for EU. NA's basically whole storyline was Peterbot and Pollo. Will they dominate? That was the only storyline, really. And for EU, we just didn't have anything. And that comes back to the format, the fact we have no weekly finals, so we can't actually get any sort of like insight into how people are playing finals. Realistically, like Kami and Seti could have easily, they played one game, which they won. They didn't play any finals throughout the week, so they could hide everything for grand finals. They didn't actually have to show anything. So that's maybe why we got more strats hidden for grands, because you don't actually need to show a lot to qualify to grands for top level players. But I think for EU, it was hard for us to create storylines when we have so little to go off. We don't have anything to really go off.
Yeah, well, I think what's great proof to whatever the hell you just said was that I was like, I wonder how good Swizzy and Vanyak did this season, because I don't know anything about them. And I was like, so I opened their Fortnite tracker, and it's like, the amount of like seconds, thirds, fourths, they placed second in like in the qualifier number 2, but I just didn't even like think about it, because I wasn't, even though I've looked at that leaderboard, I've not sat and I've gone through it, because I didn't watch 6 games of them play in the qualifier. So like they actually played really good the whole season. And maybe they didn't have something where they like won 3 cash cups or something that made you like stand out and go, wow, they're so amazing. But their placements were really good this season, and it's like we just had no awareness of it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into more specific talk, right? We're going to run it back how we did during the qualifiers. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll go around in turns. We'll each highlight one thing we thought was good about the FNTasias Grand Finals, one thing we thought was bad, one thing we thought was ugly, like real bad, like terrible, like just disappear, like just be gone, just don't come back, don't show up, don't play, don't queue next season, you're done. But we're going to start with bad, because we want to start with maximum negativity. Anybody want to start? Anybody want to?
I think I've already, because I just alluded to my bad, which was the format there. I feel like, let's just get that one out of the way. We're halfway through that conversation already. Well, I mean, we've had this conversation a bunch already. Let's be real. One of the worst FNC's formats we've had ever. You know, I said I like grand finals. It was great, but watching NA in particular, where you have like such a massive lead, why are we not in? I didn't watch NA. I want to clarify that, but why are we not in a match point format? Like,
Right.
why? The number one thing for me, like obviously we've talked at nauseum about the qualifiers and the semis being rubbish, but coming to grand finals, like why are we not in a match point format at this point? Why have we not tried it yet?
Well, we did try it, but it was impossible to reach. It was literally
we didn't try it then.
Yeah, I mean, basically not try it.
Yeah.
The only thing I actually like, because I agree on all your points. The opens format was bad. I think having no match points bad. The one thing I do like about the format, and this is just from a viewer perspective alone, not competitive, I do actually like the 1.5 times multiplier on day 2.
Agreed.
I think it allows for teams. We've had it now back-to-back seasons where teams had a horrible day 1 and top 5 overall because they've had a good day 2, and it creates less grief or less teams griefing, which therefore leads to day 2 actually mattering, and you get to watch day 2 and be interested, because as much as both regions, EU and NA, were won before the final day, the leaderboards could change so much. Like the leaderboard in EU for the land spots were really, really close. Like Trillic and Chicho I know it's 40 points, but 40 points on day 2 is not a lot. That is not a lot.
I think the main point is actually that there were very minimal changes in the leaderboard with the addition. I think Kinch did a tweet about it with the addition of it. But Trilix and Chicho were like the one team I think would have qualled had it not been a 1.5 times point system, which is interesting. But I think I often wonder how much the 1.5 times points is just psychological for a viewer rather than anything else. Like, it doesn't change the leaderboards that much, and most of the times it hasn't. But as a viewer, you're just excited about it because it just sounds like it does more. And obviously, if teams are equally as consistent on both days, there's not like a massive difference. And obviously, it does allow for like some massive clutch ups, like Antilex and Sato is a great example. They did qual to globals basically on day 2 alone, which was awesome. But I wonder how much of the majority movement in there is pretty much just psychological for like the top teams,
No, I agree. And I think with that point as well, is like they're talking about the psychological thing. When you see game 1, Reason and Vidil getting, what did they get? It was a 14 kill third and it being 162 points. It was like, oh my God, what a game. Or when Swizzy and Vanyak, both of them had solo clutches on day 2 where they are over 100 point solo clutches. And you're like, wow, they are actually putting in a shift where even if it was day 1, obviously all the points are just low, they're still getting a 60-point clutch or like it's the exact same thing. But I think there are minimal downsides to the 1.5 times. I think, as you said, the leaderboard doesn't change at the top. If you're the best team, your best teams are probably going to win every single time. But it gives the opportunity for teams to come back. And if you have a good day 2, you can move up from the bottom like 10 to up to middle of the pack, or even up to top 5 as Andlex and Sato did.
It just heightens those like bigger moments, right?
Yeah.
Like it's good for that reason. Any more thoughts on that though?
I'd say the majority of pros are the ones I think that are against it, because like in their minds are like, oh, I had such a good day 1. Why can that all be taken away in day number 2? But like we said, like it's the format. You know what the format's gonna be. Your day 1 and day 2 performance should, in theory, always be the same, right? The thing that's even better, and it's actually in my mind and my twisted mind, I feel like it's slightly more competitive even, because it'll take the teams that had a shitty day 1 or had a mediocre day 1, learning and VOD reviewing what went wrong in day number 1, changing things up, changing up strategy, and then coming to day 2 with this advantage now because they're smarter at adapting and they're smarter at VOD reviewing and doing all those things, right? It does better for the teams that put in the work. It doesn't always work out that way because people can get landed on stuff like that, but I think it is actually decently competitive. And like you said, it doesn't change the format at all. Like, I think the last 2 grand finals, according to Kinch's tweets, is the top 5 has always been the same, whether or not you add the 1.5 times points or remove it.
So basically, that was my bad. So we just said all the good things about it. The rest of the format, crap though.
The rest of it is awful.
I mean, we need a weekly finals. I think that's like what Harry said. That'll give us a lot more insight into, hey, how these teams actually doing, because it matters whether, other than like a unstacked 5 lobby thing or whatever they have now.
You shouldn't be able to qualify to a Grands off one set lobby game, like Cami and Seti. That should not be our FNCS format where they can hide everything, win 1 game. They have played 1. They could have not qualified to any Duo Cash Cups, won 1 set lobby game and made grand finals.
That's actually crazy when you put that in terms of the FNCS before grand finals. They literally just played 1 set lobby game and then that was it. Wow.
Yeah, that's literally it. What do we have to go off then for, like, everyone was, I predicted them to win, but realistically, that's off like what you can predict is going to happen, but you have no idea how they're actually playing because you don't see, 3 weeks to weekly finals, you see 18 games and you see like a heats format where I don't mind reround and heats format if we have finals lobbies in midweeks. But like, I think but when you don't have weekly finals in midweek, weekly finals, in upper lower bracket, if you don't have weekly finals in the rounds before, then you have reboot rounds. We end up in these situations like Cami and Seti where you get one game and that's what we get to see of them, and then it's grand finals.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's move on. Next bad. Let's start roasting some players now. Anyone got a bad?
I mean, I guess I'll take it. And like I said, it was my first season actively watching North America, and I had a lot of expectations for the duo coming in, and I was pleasantly is a bad way to say it. I'm not happy for the downfall. I just think it was sort of expected, at least from my side and my own prediction. It was Clix and Epic War's performance. I think at the start of this season, I had a lot of faith that they were looking like the team that potentially had the unlucky time of being in a season where Peterbot and Pollo were dominating, but they looked like the second best team at some point. And then when you transfer that into a ultra stack lobby, they were looking like a middling top 20 team, which, they ended up placing, I think, 17th or something leaderboard, or 15th. I don't fully remember. But for me, I like to attribute that a little bit to I think a lack of adaptation, because I think it's the same sort of thing that happened last season, but the things changed, right? So last season, snipers were a lot more readily available to them. Epic this season, I believe, has nerfed snipers to a decent amount in terms of drop rate, and you can barely get them because of the bunkers and stuff, so you don't get them from a vault, for example, from the spot. So the way that Epic War and Clix ended up playing, and in scrims, the main thing, because I actually watch a decent amount of scrims before I go to bed, even though I don't stream it, is they every game they have a sniper, right? Because pub spawn rates for snipers are super high, and then when it comes to a real tournament, they don't get a sniper, and then when they don't have a sniper, they end up struggling for Surge. Every single game, it seems like they were scuffed for Mats or scuffed for Surge. They didn't look like a cohesive team, and like the chat saying, yeah, they did split now, but I'm kind of disappointed, and it was sad for me to see that they didn't have a plan B or a backup plan to what Surge was, because it felt like it was an obvious thing that was going to happen, and it happened.
Yeah. I agree. I think also on that point, I wonder if, now you said they split, if Clix or Epic War are going to stay Lavish Lair, right? Especially in a no mobility meta. Because last season, on top of the snipers, when you have crash pads and you have grapples, and you can go go jump on a team and get Surge on teams who are scuffed towards the top left, Rebels Roost or the Vault next to it, or even the Islands team, you're going to be better than most of those teams at fighting when you're Clix and Epic War. But then when you go into a no mobility meta and you can't just fizz crash pad onto someone or grapple onto someone, and you don't have snipers to, if you don't get a fight, get the clutch Surge, you're in a situation where Lavish, no one rotates around you. We saw it in day 2 with Cringe and Noms, as it's a similar team who needed to fight for Surge. If you have no teams around you who aren't going to go near Lavish Lair, you're going to struggle with Surge. And if you're, as you said, practicing with snipers and you're not getting them in tournaments, you're just set up to fail in Grands.
Yeah, I feel good because I sat here and said it, and people looked at me and said, well, 11's just waffling again, or 11's just challenge. But I said the exact same things, right? Before, we went into Grands. I said, these guys are relying on bullying people off of bunkers to get Surge. Like, that's what they're trying to do every game. And in hindsight now as well, looking back on it, it was even more dumb that they were doing that before Grands. Because then now in Grands, you've already low-key conditioned those teams to not even want to fight you like that because they know they're going to lose. So if anything, like, they're sat there going, yeah, we're better than these guys, Epic, bro. We shit on all these kids in the bunkers. Like, hello? Like,
It's our bunker.
You need those kids to think they can get the bunker if you want to get Surge. Like, it was, again, like a normal belly meta like this, you just can't rely on just fighting the way they did last season. It was obvious. Everybody could see that from a mile away. It's a shame they didn't fix that. There's obviously all the talks about like Clix's inability to like play for Surge and like, place Surge bases, etc. Like the whole thing's a mess. Obviously, yes, we know, like everyone's saying in the chat, they've split. By the way, as well, for the people watching live, we're gonna end up talking about a lot of teams who have split. So like, you don't need to tell us every time they split, they split. We do have a section coming where we're gonna talk about all the teams that have split, just so you know. So we'll get
do
to
watch
that.
Fortnite.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, like we do watch the game. But yeah, the clicks and epic thing. Yeah, I thought that was pretty bad. It's a shame. But it was also something that I think they should have seen coming, which is kind of disappointing that they didn't have something more ready for Grands to deal with that problem.
It was also interesting that, I mean, we were watching it live, and then the second they finished, right, in game number 12, a clip goes into my chat, and they were like, yo, look at what Click said about BloodX, right? And then it was just like, yeah, BloodX wasn't on in day number 1. He wasn't even aware. And like, I'm a fragger, so I don't really want to think about things like that. And like, he wasn't there in day 2. Look how good we did because BloodX was a lot more alive. Like, I feel like that lack of accountability as well is also a little bit painful to see because, like, yes, you have a coach, and yes, you rely on your coach to live coach you, but I mean, if 27-year-old me and you know, the rest of the boys can see very clearly what's about to happen, then you as a player should also see what's about to happen. Like, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. I can't believe Click said that about. I was going to quickly say, I can't believe he said he did well in day 2. I wouldn't call 18th in day 2 good. Like, I don't think that's like a huge increase in performance for them. Like, I as you said, I don't think it's anything to, like, obviously as a coach, you take accountability, right? But if Clicks is taking all the responsibility away from him, that gives me worries for next season. Whoever he plays with, is he just going to blame his new teammate? Whoever he decides, like, oh, I shouldn't have played with him. I should have played with someone else. Like, I wonder if this is going to be a problem for next season.
Well, I think that's just, I mean, obviously, I've not seen the clip or whatever. I'm just basing it specifically off what you just said. But that mentality generally is usually extremely toxic from a coach to player perspective, right? Because I think about this in like real sports and things like that, where you have the people who just cannot accept that they made a mistake, which makes usually very uncoachable people to start with. Like, you know, BloodX has coached a lot of extremely successful players. So of course he's got a very specific way that he does it. And maybe that doesn't align with Click sometimes, whoever it may be. But the lack of acceptance is like a bad look generally, because who else is going to coach him if not BloodX? The reality is there, you know, someone will try, but like, will they be able to do as good a job?
Especially because you pay them a lot of money, right? Like, it's a weird relationship that you have, because you're same thing as like Mongo Savage. Like, you pay someone to shout at you and to shit on you, basically, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing where I think like the where I wanted to go with that, before I was just waffling, was the reality is like, you can get a coach and you can get them to tell you all this stuff, but if you don't yourself actually like put in the work and think about it as well, think about your mistakes, take accountability for yourself, find out what you're doing wrong, add to it, and not rely on them that much, then it's very difficult for you to actually like continually improve as well, you know? I don't know how much time Click's put in this season with Epic and how much they've audited themselves and how much they put in all this kind of stuff. But I would doubt it would be as much as a team would need to win a region.
Yeah. Well, for clarity, real quick, Clicks didn't blame Epic. I don't think I said that. And again, the clip that he might have said about BloodX, I mean, there's probably more context to it, but that was just a clip that I saw, is that he said BloodX was in their deal number 1. So just for clarity for the people.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to add to what you said at the end of that, Reese. I'm pretty sure before Grand, he like posted a clip of him like on a private jet playing Fortnite. So like, again, I don't know how locked in he was before Grand. You know, I don't know. It's like
I just think if you're on a major region like that, it's so hard to balance being like a creator with also, you know, trying to actually practice enough to be the best on the region repeatedly, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay. On to the next. Any more bads? I think I'll go with one. Let me see. We got a long list here. I think the biggest one that I sort of was thinking about was Veno and Tayson. And Tayson, so much expectations going into Grand. So many people predicted them to do incredibly well. So many people, including myself, said, look, after how last season went, they just have to have a good season. And it's just like, in my mind, there was no world where this wasn't going to be like a top 3 sort of situation for them. And obviously that does not happen. They finish in 11th place in Grand Finals. The last day, like the last couple games just were bad. Like every time we saw them on the broadcast, it was like Veno solo running around in fencing, trying to like survive the Frenchies just bullying them down. Like it was just bad looks. maybe even ugly looks, depending on who you ask, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Venno and Tayson, sort of everything's come awry. There's been a lot of rumors now as well that Venno's going to be playing with Click, so who knows what's going on in that sort of realm with whether they'll keep playing with each other or not. But what did everyone make of their grands?
Yeah.
You go for it. I was going to say, like, obviously, I've not gone through and watched every single game so far because I just basically was given what the broadcast showed. Yeah. And I will be real. There was a lot of Tayson dies first in a lot of those, and obviously I would love to look at the stats. I'd love to go through all the games and look, but obviously 12 games is a lot to do. I will caveat this immediately by saying I've not looked through all the games to start with, but like every time I saw in the feed, it was just like Tayson dead first. And a lot of that was in the off spawn, and then it was, as you mentioned, it's like Vino left running around solo. That's a tough one. Try to reboot from like a position where the reality is you're probably going to have a few teams rotating into you already. So a lot of the successful reboots from that are way later in the game, which means Vino has to play a huge amount solo or Tayson if one of them dies off spawn, of course. So I don't know. I think like to me they just didn't look on form from what we saw on the broadcast, at least. I think I won't have time, but I'd love to go and watch actually all the games and see what went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'll back up your point. I think for me, watching them day one, I felt like there was like their surge meta read for a second season in a row has seemed off again. It felt like watching them, they're either just above, or if they're above, they're scuffed on mats. And there are some games where they are playing Storm well and they are getting into good positions, but they're still not even getting good end games from it as well. They're getting 10ths. Or, if you have Vino and Tayson in 5th zone with cap mats and 500 above, on paper, you think, oh, that's a top 5, or if not a win, they're taking high early, right? And they're winning the game. But watching them, as you said, it was an off day. It was the surge meta read I didn't feel as good. Their end games weren't as clean as you would expect from a Vino and Tayson caliber. And I wonder as well if this is a big impact from them having to go north fencing, right? They played the whole season from south fencing. They played all practice from south fencing. And as it was shown on the broadcast, south fencing surge base had the most damage out of any other surge base. Like, it is one of the best, if not the best surge base. So it's consistent surge. And when you then have to play a completely different way, I wonder if that had a huge impact on how they performed this weekend.
I think they should have stuck to the guns. I agree. Like the day one, it seemed like surge was the issue, right? Most of the time. Day two, I think we said like there was a few off-spawn deaths, but as we saw with previous seasons with Malibu and Mersash, you can be contested and still win the FNTS or top 3 the FNTS, right? You don't need every single good game. So that little bit of early game surge off of killing Pollo and Snazy, especially with the kill points adding up, like they bitched Pollo and Snazy the whole season, and
like 45, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they have a score. Like, Venno keeps spamming it every single time. It's like 42, 45-2, 45-3, right? And then I said it when they first moved. It's like, okay, maybe at least we said it, like, maybe they're doing Pollo and Snazy in favor by not landing on them. But I think in hindsight, it's like, yeah, they should have just bitched them. Like, they were looking like the strongest team. You can't be afraid to be contested. And and the reason why a lot of people put them into the first place, because this is what felt like the first season where Tayson was incredibly motivated, right? Like, there wouldn't be a day where Bloodx didn't DM me like, look at Tayson, he's regging, he's doing this, he's that. Holy shit, like it's happening. And I was like, yeah, holy shit, he's on the grind. And maybe the way that his tweet after he didn't do well, I think was a lot different than what he usually has. Usually it's like, yeah, this was shit, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you know what? I'm motivated to keep going better and grinding again. So like, I don't think this is the end of Tayson and Venno. And it's one of the things we have as maybe later on as the ugly is my ugly. But I think just a mismatch on the day and a wrongful analysis of what they actually should have done for spawn fights.
I think it's like a really difficult thing to do, though, right? Where we always have the same good point here, Harry. I think I think it's a really difficult trade to make, though, where you go, do I continue to 50-50 off spawn when I have a literal free drop spot to the north of me? It would be really, you'd be stupid, most people, to do that as your first instinct, I would say, when there's so much available there.
And the problem as well is that if they had 50-50, there's a good chance the North wouldn't have been free, which is, I think, what was their main worry, right? It was like, if we 50-50, someone claims North, we get third-partied every game. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting, like, a tough balance to strike. The thing that confuses me as well, and again, this is hard to judge because you only see what you see through the broadcast, unless you've gone back to watch. But considering how they were bitching those Frenchies off spawn like throughout the season, I'm surprised day 2 they had like those problems where like Tayson's dying off spawn. Like I would have thought, like my mentality was that like worse, like push comes to shove, they decide to just start fighting those guys and they win those fights, and then they're good or whatever, right? But like it was just odd that it didn't go that way.
I wonder if in heats should they have not won a game and actually just continue contesting Pollo and Sneezing, because genuinely I do believe if they were uncontested south side and didn't have any off spawn problems or anything, and they're just a random north side team, I still think there's a world they probably win. There's still a world that they could win FNCS. Less search problems day 1. They know how to play the spot. They know what they need to do, and it's just like when you then have to change spot, it's just. I wonder if that is a big thing for them that, with this format as well, if we have a similar format next season, if you're a good team contested, and say, for example, a Cami and Seti, if they were contested, a Vino, Tayson, or a Malibu Mustache, it's actually beneficial to just grief the teams you're contesting and then get top 25 or an upper bracket. Because if you're Vino and Tayson, if you're Malibu Mustache, Cami Seti, you are just getting top 25 or top 15 upper or lower bracket in those lobbies. You just are. So I feel like they maybe are thinking to themselves they might, or if you're a top team, maybe you should think about doing that. There might be a world it's worth it.
There was glimpses of greatness from them too, right? Like I think you said day 2 was bad, but like I mean they had 2 games where I'm like, holy shit, they're starting the comeback now. They had a second place. Sorry, they had a win, I believe, into a 6th place afterwards, right? And like that 6th place could have easily gone either way because I feel like it ended within 3 seconds. So yeah, there was glimpses of it, and I mean, I think a lot of people are speculating whether or not they are splitting, and realistically, Venno X Clicks visa-wise is probably not happening, even though that's, that it was going to happen at some point last year, right? I think Venno said, but it seems too short-term now, especially with the LAN qualification spots. I think it's not happening. I think it would be weird for them to split. I don't think the issues are them together as a duo, because when they make it. They do well.
Yeah.
The biggest problem as well that always came with the question of would they split, especially last season after they came 15th, was who do they play with? Like,
Yeah.
when you're trying to think of like whenever you split, like ideally you want an upgrade, right? Like, and a lot of the like potential team ideas that were getting cooked up, like they didn't feel like clear upgrades compared to those two just staying together and fixing their problems. Maybe there's some bias in that like we just look at the name value too much. Maybe there are better upgrades there in terms of better fits with each other, with playstyle, etc. comms. But again, it's just one of those things where you look at the name Tayson, you look at the name Venno, and you go, how does this not just form the best team? So yeah, I'm curious to see what they do moving forward. I think there's some interesting things being cooked up, but we'll see.
I think just one quick point I want to add on that, which was just looking at their elims were like very surprising for a team like their caliber. Like if you look at the leaderboards, their average was 2.17, right? And it's like above that is like 3, 2.6, 2.9. So it's like they were immediately a lot lower than a lot of the average. They had one game where they had more than 3 elims, which is like,
that's ridiculous.
Mental.
That is crazy. Like they were getting into games where, like the games they were going deeper. I don't know if, again, because I'm literally looking at the leaderboards to try and figure out what was going on, but it's like the games they were getting like a top 10, top 20 in, like they were getting like 3 elims, clearly just not enough to like keep them going. Not enough loot to keep them going. They weren't getting into good positions, things like that. You compare that to like Swizzy and Vaniac, obviously, who won. Like they had 2 double-digit games, 5 average elims total. It's like it didn't seem like they had much fragging power across the weekend, which was quite surprising, knowing the team. Because people, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this when I was watching it, because there's always one moment in a grand finals where Levin's cast and he goes, "That's why Tayson's the GOAT," or some shit like that. It's just like a crazy 1v2, and like
I didn't have that this season.
Didn't have that this season.
I didn't have my Tayson glaze this season.
You didn't get your Tayson glaze this season. Yeah, so I don't know. I found that interesting. I would love to know like more in depth about what happened with them. But yeah, agree.
Well, I think the only one left then. What? All right, Harry, you got your bad for this season?
Yeah, so for me, like with the storylines we've been talking about this season, I think the main thing we've been talking about is Grimgate. I feel like what's going to happen at Grimgate EU, what's going to happen at Grimgate NA, And I feel like after this weekend, nothing happened.
Yeah.
It felt like there was all the talk. Oh, pop-off format. Is Malibu going to be triple conned? Is Peterbot going to be quad conned? It was the most quiet I have ever seen, like a mythic POI. It was literally like Mount Olympus was Grimgate and Grimgate was Mount Olympus. And in this format as well, when you have day 2 1.5 times multiplier, I'm surprised no one thought, you know what? Why don't we go there? Because even on day 1, game 1, all the Halo and Finn, when obviously you could see their plan wasn't really to land Grimgate, but even when they did
12,
land,
by the way,
12 for 12.
landing there 12 for 12.
But when you saw their loot after in that game, it's like they had cap heals, cap loot, they had everything without even having to fight. So I'm so shocked nothing happened. All on EU, it was Fredoxy landing there or pushing in a couple of times, so that was really it.
Yeah, we gotta have conversation about Grimgate. The when we look back at the legacy of Grimgate in all-time POIs, right? Which I'm sure we'll probably do in like an off-season ranking, like on a pod one time. The fact that we all hyped up Grimgate and we all said it's the best POI we've seen ever, the most overpowered crap. We all said it's gonna be double, triple, quadruple, quintuple conned on day 2 because 1.5x format. And the shit was just dry. Like there was just nothing going on. The observers every game were like looking there. Like they dedicated like 2 people to every bloody game. Nothing's happening. They're like, lads, can we move on? Like there's nothing happening. Like, oh man, that shit was just, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. I don't know, like, because even like the week before Grand, when it was like everything had switched, right? And it was like, it was going to be quadruple conned on NA and then uncontested on EU, but it was like then Finn and Fredoxy and all these guys. Like, what happened? Like, why did everyone just decide on the day, I actually don't fancy Grimgate? Yeah, I'm all right.
It seems like what happened, at least for EU, was fuck Queasy. It was like Queasy said in chat, it was 12 for 12 at Olympus. Like those teams that I thought they were gonna leave too, right? Like Ice in the first grand finals ended up placing like 48 or something. The French team actually did pretty decent, surprisingly enough. But like it was like fuck you, Queasy in particular, to land at Olympus. But the fact in NA. Specifically, I mean, EU also, we had a little bit of grief. I think Fredoxy showed in the last game, hey, we could have bitched you, Malibuka, like they killed them, right, in that last game. But the fact that not a single person landed last game at Grimgate, it just shows the mentality. I don't know, there's a weird mentality shift. And I replied it underneath Peterbot's tweet, like, this could be a defining moment for North America. And I think it is. And I think a lot of people was thinking I was stupid for saying so, but like, don't you think this level of dominance, at least from I'm slightly going off topic here, but like this level of dominance isn't only relating to Grimgate in the situation of North America, right? Every future season in North America, Peterbot and Pollo are going to do the exact same thing. It wasn't meta that's the reason why they were W keying and shitting on kids. It was the personal skill level. And now that we've shown that, hey, no one wants to be within 200 meters of them, I think the precedent has been set for the upcoming season. I don't know how NA is going to flip the script. Like, are we just always going to give them whatever they want?
100%.
Until a LAN.
Until a LAN.
Maybe though. I think you raise a really good point because sure, next major, like the things don't change. Like their fighting ability is unmatched. Genuinely, like I watched far too many of their games, and they are literally making some of the best players in the region look like absolute floppers. Of course, the coin enhances that in so many ways. It did a 15-minute breakdown on it to truly show how it like boosts their playstyle by so much. But like they did the same thing the previous season as well, it's like it's 2 seasons in a row that they've had that like absolute dominance on fragging ability. So I think you're right. I think like next season you look and go, yeah, I'm not conning that. I'm not doing that.
The most interesting thing about Grimgate as well is like only one team in one region, the winner was from Grimgate. Out of all the regions. Yeah.
Crazy,
so it's like it, and as you said, Levin, the legacy of Grimgate for only one team to go from that POI.
Fraudulent, bro.
I mean, there was also OC had second. So,
is it a win? Is second a win? Well, we got if Mustache is sixth, we might
talk about it later. We'll talk about it later, but it probably should have been a win.
Yeah. But it's crazy to me. It's crazy because you made the tweet at the start of the season, I'm pretty sure, like, what's better, Stark or Grimgate? And I think in this meta, it's fair to say that Grimgate should be better. Full no mobility, no one having it, and having a coin. And I think Kinch said it was like, it's worth 1.5k mats. to a
That's
duo.
ridiculous.
So you're basically playing trios whilst everyone else is playing duos, and only one winner was from Grimgate.
Mental.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
I would like to see the average placement of the teams there, though. I've not gone through and seen because, for example, we say winner, but second on OCE, sixth on EU at least. I don't know about Asia and Brazil and Middle East where they came, but they were top 10s for all of those teams. But also you also have a bias of the best teams in the region are also landing there, so it's kind of can't cancel out. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was weird how it turned out. I'm not gonna lie. So, I said at the start, the first podcast we did, I was like, if NA does not contest Peterbot and Pollo, any shit. But now everyone seems to be shit. Everyone's doing it. Is everyone shit? I don't know. I don't know. If I'm one of those bottom 10 teams, day 2, I'm going Grimgate. Fuck it.
If you're dying to Surge or you're getting contested at a different spot, why not be contested at Grimgate? Take half the loot. You're still going to get cap, shield cap, everything, a team to get Surge on.
Right. I doubt the idea that, I don't want to grief Malibu and Mustache. I doubt that, or respect of any of those teams in any other region was a consideration at all. It's just I don't understand. Gudenborough and Forsen, for example, who obviously kept landing Swizzy and on Battleground. That is, like you said earlier, Harry, that's their drop spot, right? Respect it. But if you're getting absolutely 1v2 there, just go Grimgate. You're not just go Grimgate, mate. It's you might as well try.
No, yeah. I mean, we'll talk more about Grimgate a bit just because there's going to be a lot of Peterbot and Pollo talk on this show.
There
was a lot to talk about there. I think someone put on there Paco and Mixon, something about Paco. Who put that on there? Do you want to get into that?
So there was something. I think, did I put that? Oh yeah, I did actually put that. I put, okay. So my warning was that Paco Mixon were frauds in NA Central. One thing that is interesting that'll add on to this before I go into this conversation is apparently Mixon is going to NA. Sorry, not Mixon. Sorry, Blaha. Blaha is going to NA. So because a comeback is split with Blaha, and Blaha is going to NA, so we might have the return of Blaha and Mixon in North America, and that was a power duo in EU.
See, there we go.
So that's where the real expectations are going to be coming, because Paco Mixon, I mean, realistically, Paco Mixon are in the top 10 EU team, right? So, but we still had relatively open expectations. At least the majority of people making predictions on them. Me personally, I think I put them 14th or 15th, and I don't remember what they ended up placing, but they looked not great. They got 15th on the dot. So they looked not great. They didn't look like they were ever close to being the top 5 team. They had an okay day number 1, and then day number 2 they kind of threw it all away. Just slightly disappointing, especially with the inter-region battle. It just gives everyone more fuel, and I hate giving them more fuel. It's just painful to see it. So frauds might be a strong word, but I expect a little bit better from them.
I was gonna say, right, if you're thinking of Mixon and Paco, I don't think 15 is far off what we all would expect them to get.
No,
I don't think that makes them frauds. As you said, Blaha and Mixon, that is a power duo. If they play together on NA, I'm all aboard the hype train. I'm all aboard, ready to go down with it. But I don't really understand. People joke around. Obviously, they could have done well. They were 7th after day 1. There's a world they could have quad globals, but it's not a duo that on EU would dominate. It's not a duo we'd expect to do anything really that special on EU. So moving to NA 15th is fine. Obviously them splitting, they feel like they can do better, but it's decent enough.
It's funny because Paco had messaged me. I think we did Hotline FN with Pink, and someone called in and they were like, my hot take is that Paco and Mixon won't get top 10. And me and Pink were kind of like, that's not a hot take. and we emphasized the fact that, again, I don't think a lot of people know this, especially NA people. Paco hasn't made a grand in EU since Chapter 4 Season 1. He wasn't this guy that was making us, and he actually DM'd me and he was like, get me on the podcast. I'm not taking this slander no more. My name. And it's funny because after day 1, I was going to message him you know what, fair enough, mate. Hands up, you got me. Day 2 happened, I was like, fuck this guy. I'll give a fuck, man. So, it's one of those things where, we'll see what happens with them, splitting and stuff. But, I don't think it means they're frauds. I think it's it was one of those win-wins for the EU frogs who could just be we don't have to claim them. So if they did well, like,
Yeah.
They're
we
an NA
can-
team now.
Yeah, so if they did well, we would have been like, yeah, of course EU's done well on
Tier
NA.
3
Like,
team
come on,
dominating.
Mm.
And then when they don't do well, we'll be like, yeah, well, they weren't even a good EU team anyway, so who cares? Like, you know, like it was kind of a
It
win-win.
was
no
win-win.
matter
It was win-win basically for
Yeah.
all of us. Yeah.
we couldn't lose as EU frogs, but yeah, interesting with Packer. We'll see what happens with that one. Do you want to move on to the goods now? Anyone want to touch up on any more bads from FNTS?
I think there's one more bad. Jansen Flixie again. Uncon Reckless again. Struggling with Surge again. It feels like you literally have copied and pasted the exact same FNTS last season, where they quo, Sky and Scroll quo, they're bigging up Reckless, and Sky and Scroll are like, fine, we'll give you Uncon Reckless. And then Jansen Flicks are like, wait a second, that wasn't meant to happen. And then they just die to Surge every game. And I'm just confused how this happens every single season. And it does bring question marks over Janus. Like, it really does, because how can this, like, he has struggled to get an uncon spot for a long period of time, and he finally gets a good uncontested spot. Came second in NA. Like, it is a good uncontested spot. But then you end up in a situation where you're just dying to Surge on repeat, and it's like, I'm worried, like, what's going to happen with Janus. Obviously, they've split now. They're looking for separate duos. We'll talk about the potential duos, but the rumor is apparently Janus and Marius. That's apparently that's what I've heard. Apparently,
From who?
From who? Apparently, like a lot of the German streamers and German community have been saying it's going to be Janus and Marius.
That's surprising.
Interesting.
That's
I
surprising.
think they said Flixie and Vico as well, maybe.
Yeah, Flixie and
as well.
Vico, Janus and Marius.
You're trying to be the Peterbot and Pollo over you.
That's literally what Brad said in my
that's
chat. Brad said
so
it in my chat. Yeah.
Okay, the Vico Flixie thing, I don't think it actually makes sense.
No.
You know, like
Janus
the
and,
issue,
Janus and Vico.
Janus Vico feels a lot better because Vico's a better Flixie. I'm sorry, Flixie, you play at a release, but like,
You killed him in OG season.
Yeah.
I killed him in
OG season. You're dog shit now. Like Vico's very clearly a better Flixie. He's a better competitive Flixie, basically, right? Flixie's a good fighter, but it doesn't go up to it. Like, and then you're putting two people that were heavily like IGL sort of, you know, together. Like, to me, it doesn't make much sense for them to go back together. And it's also interesting that, I mean, Janus Marius is interesting because it feels like Janus's recent placements have been very mediocre and Marius has been, you know, kind of on the rise. So it feels like there's potentially a mismatch. Like the placements of Flixie and Janus, I think, are a lot. Like, they're 20th, right? Which is, you know, it's not horrible, but like it was
reckless.
They were like,
that is pretty
20
horrible.
I mean, there were 20 points in like 5 games in day one, right? And then they won a game. It's like, oh shit, yeah, they won a game. Great. Like, they're actually not doing too badly, but like uncontested, reckless, like it's actually insane. I think someone should have just landed there. I don't know. They just look weak.
I thought they were going to cook as well because game one, it was and back to another Wings conversation, but it was game one where they came in the Storm with Wings, and it was Queasy Thomas as also had Wings and Storm, and I was like, these guys, they know a strat that other people don't know at this minute, and I was like, cool. I immediately I just kind of thought they were going to be prepped and prepared just due to that alone. So my first impression seeing them was that, and then just nothing for 4 or 5 games on after that, right? So it's a disappointing finish because they were a team I put in my top 10. Because I thought they'd be able to figure it out over the course of the season. And I think they have clearly practiced, but I just don't think it's worked out for them whatsoever. Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, Reed and Richard also got second in an A, right? It's not like the spot was bad.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it would be easier to dismiss this for Janus and Flixie if we didn't watch like the only team to try to contest Peterbot and Pollo be the reckless team and Reed and Richard.
What was their like situation around them though? Because I'm not just trying to give Janus and Flixie a lot of credit, but they were like, their surroundings were really rough for Surge wise. Same with like Pink and Vico. Like, what was that like on NA?
Within a minute.
Single con around them, looking at the map. Bryson Ball to the south and Vico split. To the north was Aviv and Chubbs. Like, nothing too bad. I think there was like situation with the Youngster Rise. It's interesting. We didn't see much of Youngster Rise on the broadcast. I don't actually know what happened to them in NA. Like, they were conned, but also not conned. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't actually know. We didn't really see much. I feel like there's teams where we never see much of. Yomzo and Rise, we never see much of. We never see much of Kami and Seti and EU on the broadcast. Like, there's certain teams where I feel like
they're dropping 2 kill games. Like,
that's the problem, isn't it? Like, the guys who are like high flying, they're just like, yeah, nah, we ain't watching this shit. I actually had to tell them, like, on day 2, I was like, yo, can we watch more Cammy and Say? Even if it's just them getting Surge tagged. Like, it's just we can talk about them. Cool. Let's go into some of the goods. Good. I think let's just get this conversation out of the way. Peterbot and Pollo dominate the region, record-breaking performance. I think they broke like every record there was to break, other than like the wins in the grand. Like they broke the record for limbs, record for points. They had 1,000. Like, do you know how silly it looked looking at the 1,000 points like on the like in the English?
It doesn't even
thing,
count up. It just has 1K, bro.
1.01 it said at some point. Like, it's so ugly.
That shit was just weird, like crazy to me. And then I think they broke the record for like total top 10 games, like in a grand as well. Like almost every single game top 10. Shit was wild. The question, I guess, is, and I feel like I know the answer: is this the best season we've seen from a team ever in Fortnite?
Yeah.
I'll hold my hands up. You know, I made my hot take. I'll hold my hands up.
Oh, yeah, wait, actually.
Squeezy hating. He come in.
Reese ain't getting away with this. Reese said they wouldn't win either.
Okay. Firstly, go for it, Harry, and then I'll defend myself as well afterwards.
So I did say, I did say they weren't called Globos. All right.
A lot of things.
Yeah, I said a lot of things, but we'll get the list out throughout this podcast. It'll be a long one. But basically, I feel like, as I touched on, I felt like Grimgate would be a massive, massive issue for them. I felt like there'd be either, for example, you know, when they were uncontested, clearly this wasn't a problem, but I felt like maybe Surge could have been an issue. You know, they showed a little bit when they were streaming that Surge was an issue. Obviously showed they probably weren't trying when they were playing upper bracket. And then I thought if they were over contested, you know, then it could be grief. But it just seemed perfect. Everything seemed perfect. And the craziest thing is they could have got even more points. Day one, they were making mistakes. Peterbot, there was a game where Peterbot, it was like endgame, Peterbot dashed and didn't give Pollo the dash coin. So he had no dashes, so he just jumped out the box and died. And then Peterbot solo clutch. It was game 1, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And there was another game where Peterbot just died in 50-50 randomly and Pollo clutched up like a 5th or 6th. It's like they were making mistakes and still winning by 300 points. It's like they could have even got to point 1.1, 1.2K, maybe even further, which is ridiculous.
Would it be bad? Would it be bad to say they underperformed? You know, they got 1,000 points, but I feel like they actually underperformed. I was expecting way more domination. You know, like they had a 10th in there, there was a 30th in there. You know,
how dare they? How dare they?
I mean, they're absolute shitters. You know, unbelievable.
I think the thing I noticed from the little I watched, and Reese, I know you noticed the same from your VOD reviewing of them. They weren't like playing that same style they played throughout the season, where they were just like super keying. And I think that was probably part of why it wasn't like, because you're right, even though they did dominate, and it was the most dominating performance I think we've ever seen, it also wasn't as dominant as like we've seen from them this season, like in previous competitions. So like I do feel that angle.
They weren't just running over teams, fighting everyone. They weren't just it was just clean. It was just clean gameplay. It was
good Fortnite,
like,
baby.
It was good Fortnite. It was like there was no messing around. It was just consistent, clean, no hiccups. But even when there were, the solo clutches were enough to just
You still dodged the fact that you made a shite prediction, though.
Oh yeah, I said sorry. I'm sorry. I made the shite prediction. I apologize.
I think you know, I said they'd come second, so I still think they'd qual, right? I think, and the reason I caveated that so much with if they are allowed to do this, their shit is that then it would like NA's shit, because you know if no one's contesting what the hell's going on, is so that I could win at this predictions, right? The reality here is I still win here by saying if they come second, they're going to do it. Because let's be real, what the hell's going on in that region? No one calls them. We've talked about that already. But I think the point I want to make out was looking at their gameplay, as you mentioned, it's not the same as we've seen throughout. They played smart. They played well thought out. Sure, there were some mistakes and stuff like that. But watching them, it was not just like we key for Surge every single game. It was like there's the ability to key and they use it when they need to, which was not that often, to be honest. They just had a good game plan. They looked like a grand finals team. They looked like any region winning level of team, to be totally honest with you.
They looked prepared.
Impressed me the most. Yeah. It was not just like, we're fraggers, we just dash in your box and kill everyone like it kind of was in the quals. It was, holy shit, these are two really good players with a clear game plan and strategy. And if you've ever sat and watched a lot of teams who do good, that's very rare. Very, very, very rare, because the majority, and outside of like the top, obviously the big names from every region, if you go and watch like winners from these small regions, or like some of the people who place 10th, and you can't see what they're doing and why. But if you watch like Peterbot and Pollo's Grands, a lot of that was very well thought out, very methodical. And of course, the odd just jump in box and do stuff like that. But it was so different from what we've seen from qualifiers.
The scary thing is there's room for improvement. Like, there were games where they're below Surge as well. Like they were taking for Surge at some points, and then there was like a clutch DMR shot. Like, yeah, they underperformed. That's it. That for me, they underperformed.
Which is
100%.
crazy.
Yeah,
Getting 1,000 points and underperformance.
Yeah.
You guys can't help but just shit on these guys. Let's just praise them. They put on a crazy show. I don't think, like, it's weird.
That is praise, though, saying they underperformed.
It's weird for me because someone in chat mentioned, like, they probably could have beaten the 6 out of 12 that Venom did. And I genuinely thought they really could. I thought they were going to. It was one of those things where I wouldn't say they put their foot on the brakes. I don't think anybody does that in Grands, but like, yeah, it definitely felt like there was another gear they could go up to, at least in terms of the way they were playing.
Which is scary.
Which is scary. I'd say the only thing I want to ask you guys before we move on from this, because again, there's going to be more Peterbot talk later down the line, so I don't want to exhaust everything now. But in terms of the performance, how do you stack up the specific Grands performance of them versus the Veno and Queasy 6 out of 12?
I'm gonna be totally honest. It's a very complicated one to answer because knowing the Grands performance from Veno and Tayson to start with, as I went in depth, I spoke to Queasy about it at the time and whatnot. We said no one takes the foot off the brakes, but they did. That's also another caveat to that, where they started doing things in day 2 where they really didn't need to, like go for Island, which I hadn't done once in the entire thing.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the rest of their games. Like, I need to look at, like, side by side the reality of like what the rest of the games are played out as. I'm still gonna give it to Queasy and Venos as well. I'm gonna put the meta over it too. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the meta was, everyone said they had such a better drop spot. Well, sure, they had like blades at the time. Yes, but they had a 3 use over a 2 use, and they created a strategy they could use that rather than everyone else's. Smart. It was well thought out. I still think, just in terms of like a performance, that's good. But I think like the season of Peterbot and Pollo infinitely better. The performance, like, I think the potential of that in terms of what they could have done would have been much higher. But actually doing it and winning over half the games is at the end of the day something that I think is more impressive.
Do you know what hurts Peterbot and Pollo for me in that comparison? I'm with you. I pick Veno and Tayson's Grands performance. I think the thing that actually is the
Queasy.
Veno,
I definitely don't think you're picking Veno.
Veno and Queasy, sorry.
Yeah.
I think what really hurts Peterbot and Pollo is not having like loads of wins in a row the way Veno and Queasy did. Like, when you think back to that Veno and Queasy performance, like, me and Shio were there casting, and we're like, they won again? And again? And again? Like, it was like the craziest thing ever in that sense, where it's like, Peterbot and Pollo won a bunch of games, but there wasn't like they've won again and again and again and again.
Like the dual cash cup, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god, it's them again. Like, holy
if
shit.
the 5 games they won, they had won in a row, I feel like a lot of people feel differently about that. Even though it's less games than what Veno and Queasy did, it was like if they had just won those games in a row, it would have felt like even more, impressive in that sense.
Yeah, because I went back and looked quickly because I wanted to double check, because I wanted to see how many games they took put their foot on the brakes, right? And it's when you actually look at it, you just look at it and you go 4th, 1st, 15th, and then win,
Bro,
and you're just like, what the fuck have they just done? Like,
crazy.
they took the, like, imagine if Queasy and Veno continued at that pace, how many wins would they have got? Right? Because they won 6. It's a 6 out of 8, not 6 out of 12. Because they didn't do anything really for the last 4 games.
So it does sound like we're being very EU biased here, but I think the biggest distinction is, like someone in chat said, is the conditioning, right? Yeah. Everyone came into this season for Peterbot and Pollo expecting them to win, and they did, and expecting them to WK the teams around them, and they did, and they gave them the space. The meta differences here is Peterbot and Pollo had infinite movement, which gave them infinite resources, which allowed them to make more mistakes. Even though Queasy and Veno don't say it's an advantage, I think the one charge was an advantage. It's not a massive advantage, right? But because they were so smart and good with it, they were able to use that tiny advantage over other teams to help them have this good strategy of doing like dead side katanas, timings of katanas, taking height on front side of zone because other people didn't have that extra charge, right? So like I feel like Queasy and Venno outplayed the lobby in Grands better, but Peterbot and Pollo outplayed the season better, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right.
Cool. Yeah. I think also another caveat, many people will call us all EU bias as an EU desk. But I think when it comes down to making some real analysis, we'll somehow be able to make it out. We're all in agreement here that this is more impressive. So also, I don't care about anyone who's not from Scotland. So
also, Queasy's in the chat, so we're all shaking right now to not say anything bad. That's why.
Yeah, but Queasy's like gonna like the Queasy would complain no matter what we say.
True.
So we can't really win.
I already had one. I already had a purple katana like 3 games, man. Like,
okay, cool. Let's move on then. Before we move on, big thanks to Kevin L in the chat. He's super chatted. So I don't think we've ever gotten a super chat. He had 2. I feel like he's watching a bit back. I feel like he's 30 minutes behind the stream because he's asking about match point and also asking about Booga Mirror running it back. I mean, we'll talk about those guys in a bit, but yeah, thank you very much, Kevin L. Big ups to you. Now, as we move on, are we still in the good section? Yes, we are still in the good section. Boop, what's your good?
Let me double check what my good was. Oh yeah, so my good was the diversity in the top 10 for EU. I think it's nice to see fresh faces, even though it's bad for the storyline and it's bad for a lot of people. It's always nice to see some teams do better and some teams do worse. Not that I'm like hating on anyone's individual ability. It's like it's nice to see like it's not always going to be Tayson and Venno, Queasy Thomas, Seti Kami, Mercer's Malabuka in that top 5 competing, right? In the last day of Grand Finals with 1.5 times format, we've had, I think the top 5 swapped a shit ton. I would love to see the statistic of how many teams were within the top 5. But like, I mean, Video and Vision were in there. I mean, they are now as well. We had other teams potentially being in there. Cringe and Noms were in the top 2 after day number 1, and they ended up doing badly. But it was nice to see teams that worked hard and put the time into things actually deliver results in a meta that, rewarded, I think, a lot of hard work.
Yeah, we need this for the esport. We need new faces to come into the esport and start competing and performing, right? Because if you have the same faces over and over and over again, it's going to get, first of all, repetitive for viewers, but also for players, you're going to feel disheartened. You're not going to have people wanting to continue to try and improve. And seeing top players, Chap getting up there, becoming second, Sato having another good season with Anderlecht. You have these players consistently, now performing. It helps the esport a lot. It helps progress it. So we are going in, I feel like we're going into like the next generation of Fortnite. We're getting close to it where we have these insane fighters who are finally getting picked up by some other top level players, the older players who've been here for a while now, and they're starting to perform with them.
I think I'll just elaborate my good on top of this because it was kind of very similar to that where, you've got new talent for a lot of teams, but also just the best teams who were there and the guys who practiced won both regions. I say both because it's the ones that anyone really cares about. Obviously we've already talked ad nauseum about NA. We already know Peterbot, but Swizzy and Vanyak, watching, they were clearly incredibly prepared. They put in the work to do it. They had strats. They individually are insane, the both of them, and it's one of the best things possible when you have a team like that wins and it doesn't feel cheap. It just feels like they dominated and they deserve it.
Yeah, 100% agree. As you said, it's not like something outside the game which caused them not to win, like a crash or a disconnect, which we will get onto, but they were by far the best team. They had the best read on the meta when it comes to the wings, and they were able to perform consistently. And on NA, as we said, Peterbot and Pollo were a level above everyone else. So I think it's good. And I think in general as I said, for the esport and just for the future, I want to see more new faces start to do well. And I want to see players, who maybe are falling off a little bit, play with these new players, not going through the same cycle as, I'm going to play with this other other tier or X tier 1 who was good like 2 years ago. Start playing with the players who are up and coming, because that can get you that good placement instead of playing with the same. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I've been advising every pro I speak to in this whole like we're splitting now. I'm like, just try and find a cracked 13-year-old, bro. Like that is the strat now. You need to
somewhere
find these
Bloomy's
guys.
ears just perked up.
Honestly, if
He's ahead of meta.
mate, if I had an org, I'd pick up Bloomy as a talent scout. You know? I promise you, that guy is gonna find you.
He's
the
gonna
best
find,
players.
He'll find you.
yeah.
I will say now on that topic of like, you know, sort of this new cycle of top players coming in. Swizzy now has won 2 FNCSs in EU. Obviously, won one in Asia. You see, whenever we have those conversations of like the best players in EU, you know, like it's a typical name, just like Thomas, Tayson, Malibu, Mustache. Who's the other ones I'm missing right now? Cammy, right? Like when we like those are the names that we typically add. When do you start adding Swizzy to that category? Now that he's won 2 FNCSs.
Now, at least.
Now.
I think if you were well inclined, you could.
Queasy as well. That. Oh my god, I forgot. Bloody, he's gonna hate me. Bloody,
oh my god, yeah. You've always been a Queasy hate watcher.
I'm sorry, Queasy. How could I forget you, mate?
I think I think if you it depends who you are, right? If you are like people like us who maybe watch a little closer, if you saw the Chapter 4 Season 3 when Swizzy won with Putrick, the dominance that he had as a player was unmatched. Like, I remember, because I'm looking at their gameplay right now, he had like, I think it was 18 or 16k damage or something like that. First on damage by a long shot. That's basically the same as like Peterbot had this season for reference. He was unreal. But playing with Putrick, like Putrick, I don't think it ever top 10 or even top 15 in Grands prior to that. I can check. But Putrick was like, on all of these stats, like damage and elims, like 28th out of 100, right? Whereas you're seeing a guy like Swizzy who's first on like almost everything, almost damage in every like zone and everything. So I think for guys like us, when we look a little bit closer at players, you see the incredible solo performances he had last year. You see the incredible pop-offs. You see how talented they are. Like they won a really good qualifier last year when he was still playing with Shimoki. There was so much potential and so much talent. That's when the point where people like us who are maybe paying more attention can be like, okay, that guy's definitely up there. But it's really only until you continue to have those placements at the highest level, like grand finals, like we're seeing now, where I think you can say he's the best, one of the best in the region. You know, that's 2 FNCS wins, a 9th as well, out of like 5 FNCSs that he's played. That's so impressive. Yeah. And the reality is he's played with Shimoki and Putrick, who are not top 10 or 20 players at all, and still had those kind of placements, right? So now you pair him up with a guy like Vanyak. It is no surprise to me that he's absolutely dominated at all. So I think now is the point where you can go, he's proved he has the individual skill. He's proved he can do it at the highest level. Not been to a LAN yet, so we'll see that, of course, as well. But the reality is, like, this guy is one of, if not the best player in the region at the minute, potentially.
No, 100%. 100%. I think it's very clear. I think if you went back to the pod we did at the start of the season and we were talking about some of the new duos when we did the tier list, I think we literally all were in agreement unanimously that the idea of Swizzy and Vanyak together just seems like insane on paper. Like it seemed like a very obvious tier 1 team. And yeah, the fact that they could then go into an FNCS is great. So I therefore think Swizzy needs some more respect in those conversations. But you're right, Reese. The thing you said towards the end there, the big test now is once we see him on LAN. If we get to globals and he has like a top performance there,
we would have known this last year had he not been Russian and been disqualified, though. So
still Russian, though.
Yeah,
he's still Russian.
There's still time to tell. Yeah,
he's Russian, but he counts as Serbian now as well. Yeah. So, you know, so it's different now. Cool. Harry, what was your good?
Kind of touch on to the same point is Anderlecht and Sato's comeback. I think going on for last season, Anderlecht had been, well, we'll say in Chapter 4, I don't think he'd been performing at a level that we expect out of Anderlecht. You know, Anderlecht of Chapter 2, one of the best players on the region, and it's just been a slow decline since then. And him and Sato last season, you know, sort of similar thing, clutching up, getting top 10, really nice. Apparently the rumors were they were meant to split at the start of this season, Anderlecht and Sato.
Thanks.
So they weren't actually going to play together. However, they end up sticking, and to see them perform again and be the best team in France again, is a huge thing. And as I said a second ago, it shows if you're a top player and you may be having a few bad seasons, get someone up and coming with that hunger, with that passion, who is very, very talented. It can push you a lot further. And I think they play towards it in day 2. If you watch their day 1, they're playing surge bases. They're trying, they were like trading a lot with Cammy and Seti at the bunker. And then start of day 2, they did the same thing. And I think it might have clicked in, game 9. It's like, wait a second. Snooty's triple cont. And they literally, 1 minute into the game, Fizz padded into Snooty and just fought a team. And then they won. They came second game. Next game, Fizz pad, go fight another team, win the game. It's like, they finally figured out, oh, wait, we're good fighters. Why are we not playing towards our advantage? And I think that shows, they maybe weren't as good when it comes to, surge strategy or whatever. But if they have the raw talent to be that good, good fighters and have that ability, it shows there's huge potential for this duo going forward.
I think that back-to-back win probably get a lot of hate. I'd probably get a lot of hate for saying this, but that's probably been the first time I've been impressed by a French team in the last 2 years. Genuinely.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But it would have been back-to-back unless Anderlecht missed.
Oh yeah.
Anderlecht missed a few shots.
Yeah, was it not like second or first or something like that? I can't remember what it was.
It was first, second, first.
Yeah. That was incredibly impressive. And it actually is funny because it made me think is exactly what you were talking about, Harry. Like early chapter 2, late chapter 1, we saw a lot of really good French teams performing really well. The last 2 years, there's not been like many standouts. Obviously, the M8 boys get a lot of hype, but like placement wise, they've not top 5 at all or anything, close to that. So far from that, actually. So I don't know. When I saw that, I just thought, awesome. We have some Frenchies that are popping off now. Yeah.
It's nice to see the ego go dropped, and like it's gonna be interesting because a lot of people are saying Saito is a little bit too good in certain aspects. So I'd love to see how young talent like that ends up doing online, because now comes the true test in September. The test of Chap, the test of Peterbot, the test of Saito, and amongst other young players that have come out the woodworks all of a sudden.
It is really unfair though. Like in other games, right? And I remember this specifically with CS. In CS, when you had like young talents coming up, obviously, naturally, just like in Fortnite, we do the same thing here. Everyone accuses you of cheating, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference in CS is that there are so many lands to prove that you actually, do you know what I mean? It's like, so a new talent might come play their first LAN, dud. Oh my God, yeah, he's clearly cheating, guys. We got him. We fucking got him. He's cheating. But then they play like the next 5 and you're like, oh, they're good. In Fortnite, if one of these guys now, like a Chap or a Sato, whoever comes through, and they dud their first big international LAN, which is so understandable when you're like a 12-year-old playing in like another country, everyone's just going to be like, cheating, see, you can't do it. It's like, you don't, there's not enough chances in Fortnite to like show that you're not just an onliner, It's
I was going to say, onliners is a real thing in a load of other games, and it happens in any other game where you're a big, whether it's the ranked mode or whatever it is, or even just online tournaments, you are one of the best players, and you go in LAN, maybe it's a different setup, maybe it's the crowd, whatever it is, and you don't perform. Like, we have Chap and Seitu who are going to be going to America to play in their first ever LAN. And if they don't perform, everyone's going, as you said, everyone's going to think they're cheating. It's like, imagine that pressure as a player.
It's just
like
ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's just the nature of our esport, eh? The nature of
exactly,
just give us more lands, please. Every week I found a reason to beg for more lands, and I will continue to do that forever.
Start writing a list and send it. There you go.
Yeah.
Every week.
To who? Donny Mustard or what?
I got some connections. I'll send you.
We set the 10x now.
All right. No, we got you. We got it. All right. Cool. Any more goods? Or are we back to negativity?
One more good I could say is about the meta. As we touched on a bit, it's like the whole new meta going into Grands. We touched on it a little bit, and it's like it was exciting to watch. The Storm meta, the Wing meta. It's like, as you said, if this meta was just we're gonna sit in surge bases, we're gonna tag each other, and then we're gonna rotate, and we're gonna sit in more surge bases, and like it would have been boring to watch. It would just been like we've seen this the whole season, and nothing's been adapted. And when you watch it and you're like, oh, wait, these guys actually are tier 1s and think about the game, and they got new ideas and new strategies. It's like, it made it exciting to watch as an analytical person.
It was also a very obvious thing, right? It was like, Some teams that do well have like very intricate things they do well. Like if we go back to like Queasy Venom, for example, like the use of pistol on high ground, for example, timings of rotates. It's very hard as like as a casual viewer to see, hey, this is why they're better than the other teams. But for Swizzy and Vanya, it's like, hey, they're using this wing item that some people knew it got secretly buffed, but not everybody knew.
Yeah.
And that goes back into like, hey, they played more games, they practiced more things, they tried out new stuff, they had the IQ to expand the box a little bit more, and it worked out for them. And it was, that was my point, was that's the good is like, hey, we have teams that are practicing and trying out new things, and then it's cool as fuck that they're hiding it for the biggest tournament, and they're able to hide it without having to use it in qualifications.
I think it's also yes and no to that, because there's two factors to it. There's the one part where wings historically were completely useless without Flowberry, basically, right? A lot of the things that they did revolved around Flowberry effect, where, you know, the height retakes in the first game, a lot of the long distance rotates, be able to skip massive zones. But the buff that came this week, which was, or not this week, sorry, 4 days before Grands, is naturally hidden because there's not another tournament to it. But the buff was literally just the fall damage one. I got my guys at Syrian, shout out to them, to figure out what the actual changes were in the lead up to it. And there's basically 3 different, like, essentially functions they added to it, is the easy way to do it. The way to summarize what actually changed was fall damage immunity. If you bump into something, you no longer take fall damage, which essentially means if you're going to do any of the cancels, so you use the wings, bounce off against a wall, or if you're doing a ramp over your head, you can do it from any height without Flowberry and not take fall damage. And that was probably like 30 to 40% of the reason that they'd used it, full stop. But that's what added up a lot in the mid game, and a lot of like trying to get fast rotations from the fact that it landed at the edge of the map, all of these different things. So yeah, it's like it was kind of hidden from like the other stuff, the Flowberry ways. I've not asked them if that was intentional yet, whether they just decided not to pick it up or they did actually end up noticing towards the end. But then obviously the buff that came in at the end made it so much more useful for smaller rotations in end game, a lot of the mid game stuff too.
Also, the high takes, right? The high takes are way more effective when you don't have to pull out the wings last second. You can right click, go up, shoot your SMG, and it caught so many teams off by surprise, you know? And it's funny to see the progression from like, it was sort of like the progression of the chains that we saw in heats. Like game 1, a few teams are using, but like by the time we got to the end, like every single team that could find double wings had double wings in the inventory because they realized how good it was all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was interesting also with there was just so many other parts. Like there was 2 games won by teams double winging, like game 3 and 4, where the first one
dive bomb at the end.
Double dive bomb,
So
there's the one where they both dive bombed into the same box, which just basically almost won the game immediately. And then there's the other one where Swizzy and Vanyak did it, where one dive bombed and Swizzy dropped down with his gun at the side, and the dive bomb pushed them into the storm because he landed at the front side. So there was like literally so many different utilizations. I'm writing the video that I'm doing on it right now, and for every game, I have one new cool thing. So it's like almost 10 or 12 or around that. Different cool little strategies they did, some of which I covered in other stuff I've done, but other which were just so interestingly in the application that they used them for.
Yeah. Be sure to watch that video. It's coming out on Thursday. If you're watching this right now and it's Thursday, or if you're listening and it's Thursday, just go on Resub's channel and it's probably there.
Hopefully, if I finish it.
He's on the podcast now. He doesn't have time.
I know.
The one thing I think the last one I'll tack onto that is there was a lack of adaptability on NA though, because I didn't see many teams use the wings at all. I only saw Booga.
Kanada
used it. He did? Okay. Yeah. So I saw Kanada use it, and then Booga, I think, used it from the start of the season, but like I guess there was no need because nobody wanted to take height. So
I think there's a different part of that. It's not even just a height play. The fact that the majority of the teams that are using them are also teams that land at the mythic spots with the god chest with the higher spawn rate of getting them. Like if you're just looting normal chests, it's really difficult to find 2 of them.
Double.
So that's why guys like Swizzy and Vanyak, perfect example, Uncon, with the bunch of god chests at Battleground where they can get them from. Same like I saw Queasy and Thomas were taking them in the first game as well. I don't know if that's just because they're in Storm or not. I've not watched too many of their games after that. But yeah, a lot of the teams that were taking them, it wasn't situational. It was, we just have them at our drop spot because they're there. And there's 4 of those on the map, really, that you could go for. And if you're landing Grim, like, you're probably not going to be taking wings anyway.
Yeah, makes sense. Even when you mentioned, like, progression over the season, like, the amount of teams using waterbending by Grands was, like, just way more, throughout. And shout out to Doja Cat. She made sure the world knew. If you didn't know about waterbending, when Doja Cat is tweeting about how busted it is, then yeah, man.
We gotta get her on Siphon, Doja.
Yeah. If we can get Doja Cat tweeting about Siphon, oh my goodness. Cool. Last thing I'd say on good before we get to the uglies. I can't believe we've not mentioned it already. We got the Blood X OnlyFans cooking up soon.
Oh,
we got the Blood X OnlyFans cooking. I mean, I would just say I would try get it up. I think everybody's seen it at this point.
Not the actual, not the pictures.
No, not the OnlyFans. But yeah, on the last episode of this podcast when we were doing our grand finals predictions, Blood X, friend of the show in the chat, did say that if Swizzy and Vanyak won, he'd strip naked on the street and start an OnlyFans. And so lo and behold, when they were leading after day one, Blood X was getting spammed by everyone in the community. I actually felt bad for him at a point because he was just getting it from every which direction. And then they go on to actually win the whole thing. And we're waiting, Blood X. We are waiting.
Oil up.
Yeah. Did you see what he said about? Did you see what he said about Chapantini as well? That
No,
in
what did he say?
Ozzy's chat, he said if Chapantini top 4, he'll eat a full banana in whole whilst making noises as well.
No fucking way.
I think we should get that. That's allowed on Twitter. So I think we should get that one up soon. Yeah. Time's ticking.
Blood. Tic tac. Tic tac. We're waiting, brother. We're waiting.
We got Banana Vico and Banana Blood X, Dan.
Mate, jeez, let's not talk about that Vico one. Anyway, for the uglies, let's get to the uglies. We'll start off with you, Boot. Let's go.
Yeah, so I mean, mine we already spoke about a little bit, but it was the decision making of a lot of teams, especially in the first grand finals, and I saw a lot of people talking about this. Is where the hell are we landing? The decision making, and obviously this might come from lack of inexperience from a lot of these teams, but the choices made this FNTasia's grand finals in terms of draw spots, it was horrific for a lot of teams on both regions, right? Start off with Resub's favorite Jake Buka, decision to land on cringe and noms after they just played 12 games of grand finals against Queasy Thomas HD. You're landing on the most prepared team possible at a spot in the exact same type of situation, and they're not going to be nervous because they've already done it against way better teams. That one just seemed so obvious to me at the start of the season that I was shocked to see a team do that. Ice landing at Olympus, triple contested after obviously it wasn't going that well. Maybe it was the confidence from lower bracket getting top 3 when they made end games, but they ended up getting punched in the face and ended up bottom 5, I think, as well. And then into North America, where teams are literally just landing at random dog shit draw spots. Quadruple what job was quadruple contested? I don't remember which one it was. But there was yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, was it Classy? That was Classy was triple con, I think.
I'm trying to scroll through real quick. It was okay, so it was triple contested Piazza, and then triple contested fencing, and then contested bottom right split, and then contested Grand Glacier, contested train station to the north, contested Classy. The split to the west of Underworld was also contested. Why are we landing at these? What are we doing? And then there's another split to the west side of the map near Forecast Tower, near Snooty, that was also triple contested. What do we do? We gotta pick spots. You can land on certain splits. Some teams actually made decent splits. Fire Hunter landed the north of Grim Gate, for example. There's areas there. You can't be afraid of one team because they also have to play their own game, and that's what people have to realize. It applies to both regions. There isn't EO and any bias. Just look at the map. There's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah. I would love to counter that with the Brazil team I watched that landed on 2 chests and were actual handless and just no idea what they were doing. They also came last, by the way. So I think I agree to an extent, but you basically said what happened with all these teams landing the good POIs. Why would you do that, land against a good team and a good POI? Agreed. But then on to all these dog shit spots are also contested was the next part, right? Mm-hmm. Was your conclusion there? If you're awful, find a split that you can at least get 3 chests on and run away from.
If you're awful, don't play. That's what people say. Basically, if you're awful, just don't ready up.
Because I'd say pick your fights correctly would be the way I'd say that. There's very clear dog shit draw spots. There's very good good draw spots, but there's also very clear opportunities to where you can get away safely from a draw spot without committing to a 50-50 spot.
Well, that's
Well,
what
that's
that's
why
what
I
Doom and
think-
Ice were doing. That's
Actually, that was going to be my
yeah,
point, right?
we have the
Where-
same points. We literally have the same point.
Don't fucking put me as low as you
Yeah,
mate,
there you
right?
go,
I don't want to be in that
Put you
same
on my
category.
level.
But
But it is true, like Doom
they
and Ice, right? Here's the thing, right? For that drop spot, like that is splittable and runnable. That's the problem with landing there. As someone who's done that all season, like I know it's splittable, right? And the thing is, like, it's if you can qual from a spot and you have 5 days to come up with a new drop spot that you're also going to be contested at, that'll probably be worse. Like, you know, I think, sure, there'll be some teams who can come up with a little split. They can get something, they can get a strategy coming out of it. But for the majority of teams, like, I think they would probably do equally as bad, but spend a bunch of time practicing something that might also not work and has less potential to work. Like, if you're contesting, triple con, sure, it's shit, right? I understand it's not a good one. But, like, if you win that, you can at least have loot and you at least have something. If you win on some sticks and stones drop spot against another awful team, then what you running away with, and then you have nothing else you can loot afterwards. So you have no potential. So I don't know. It's just the nature of the amount of drop spots that there are. Some are going to be conned. If you qual through a spot, sometimes that's just the way it is. You know.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, yeah, as you said, there are some which make sense. You know, I guess Doom and Ice, as much as they're getting not a lot of loot, but they've landed the whole season. If Mount Olympus is really hard to actually clean up, so it's like, okay, they're gonna technically they could make it off spawn 12 out of 12 if they play well, right? But
hypothetically.
Yeah. The one we just talked about was Cringe and Jake Buka. It might be some of the worst decision making I've ever seen in the grand finals. First of all, they're not even a Lavish Lair team, by the way. It's not like they landed Lavish Lair the whole season.
I thought
they just chose a spot.
Where were they landing that season?
They've landed everywhere. They've landed Grim Gate this season. They landed Pink and Vico split in the season. They've landed everywhere this season because I asked someone who was like in their friend group, but they decided, okay, we're going to contest Cringe and Noms, the best Lavish Lair team who have landed the whole season. And then the next day, it's like, okay, there are some comfortable spots which are uncontested. You know, you could try and like, you know, the North Classic if you really wanted to try and do that, or you could try and, you know, go in the area south of Pleasant Piazza, you know, that sort of like where all the shit chests are. Why then go and land on literally a campsite? I need to find this picture.
The screenshot.
Yeah, the screenshot. It's
my
the funniest screenshot because it's like they were unironically landing on one chest spawn, and it's
I just think that's like the issue with what I mentioned. Obviously, like, yeah, you don't contest Lavish, but that's what's left. You know, it's like what are your options available at a certain point? You know,
the one rebuttal I'll make to what you said, Reese, is I agree, and that's why a lot of teams in EU are contested, like tier 1 teams are contested, because like you don't have much of a choice. But if you're playing 6 games of day number 1 and it's clearly not working, why not try something else? You know, like
I agree with
you're
that.
slamming your head into a wall, your last place, you
Yeah.
have 0 points. Just do something. And then like no Grim Gate teams in EU, no Grim Gate teams in NA, no one trying to. Honestly, I didn't want to say it in my predictions, but I think another team could have landed fencing. No, you know, we had 3 teams in fencing last season. I didn't want to say it because I don't want to, you know, inadvertently grieve FNtasia because a few people, you know, watched my stream, but like. Fencing could have easily been landed on by another team and they would have been fine as well, you know? Like, there's so many options if you look for it. And then, like, just try.
Landing on one chest in the open, it is just...
Also, I think that's the difference between landing somewhere day 1 and switching that for day 2, rather than, like, you know, if you're bottom, like, you might as well just give up and do something else, right? But
hold on, and Lex and Sato.
We're talking about, like, but we're talking about, like, you know, day 1, like, where you choosing? Like, I don't necessarily disagree with Doom and Ice going to the name of, I forget this POI name every goddamn time I talk about.
Landed
I
that.
landed all season. I've landed all season.
You claimed it in round 1.
I know.
Yes, it was your spot.
Round 2, baby. Don't disrespect
Don't know if I call that
like
claim.
that.
Don't know if that was claim.
Didn't get a single kill there, but yeah. Anyway, I don't necessarily disagree with that because it's like, you know, what else are you gonna do? But I think after you're like, you know, if you're last on the leaderboard, yeah, you maybe make some changes at that point. And going into day 2 when you have like a data plan or something.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Finals is just a weird thing for a lot of shit teams. Like especially on NA, and this kind of touches onto what we were going to talk about, the whole NA central situation of teams getting banned, added in, all of this sort of stuff, right? There's 49 teams on the map. where the fuck do you go? Because it's not like you've qualified at the same time as everyone else. You can bully a team off. You're getting qualified one day before Grands, and also sometimes you're getting revoked. Like some people are getting their Grands revoked. It's like you have no options.
Yeah, you gotta just fill in.
I'd be
Yeah.
interested to
Noble
see
session.
like where all those players placed comparatively to the people who had more time to practice. You know,
That would actually be good to look at.
if only we prepped for this. You know.
If only we actually prepared our topics and didn't just do it
We
last
have a good
second. when the
document.
show
No, we
comes
did
in.
actually. It's a good thought process at the end. I don't really know. I couldn't find them off the top of the head, but yeah.
No, exactly.
All right, let's get into the next one. I wanted to talk about the roster mania because a lot of people keep asking about it. So yeah, I think one of the biggest uglies that's more of a result of grand finals is that obviously we've had more teams qualify, right? We had obviously the 5 in EU, and then the 3 in NA, right? We got one major left. Major 3 is coming up very, very soon. Like it starts in 3 weeks, and teams are panicking. Everybody is panicking. In NA, there's going to be 10 spots up for grabs, and in EU, there's also going to be 10 spots up for grabs. Realistically, there'll be a bit in terms of like where you have to place. It'll probably be around like top 13, 14, 15 in EU, and then similar maybe even in NA as well, maybe like top 12, 13, just because you can expect a lot of the teams to already qual, to place in that top 10 again. But essentially, teams are panicking. It feels like everybody who's not qualified for globals is like splitting up in NA, and the majority of them are splitting up in EU as well. There's been so many rumors and confirmed splits and potential teams moving to other regions and people flying across the world. There's so much going on. It's messy. Like it is very, very messy. And I think it's going to stay messy until that first week. Like I feel like there'll be a lot of people where we're still not even really certain until that first week. Because a lot of people are cooking up all these different teams that we're going to play with each other, because it's our only hope of getting to globals. And I feel like they'll play that first cash cup of the season, dud, and they're like, no, we gotta mix up again. Booga will make another tweet, right before Grands and mess everything up forever. It's gonna get crazy with the roster mania.
It's going to be ridiculous, and the honeymoon phase has to be good for all these duos, because if it's
it
not,
can't be good for everyone. That's
it can't be good for everyone, but it has to be for all these teams splitting up. And like as you're talking about roster mania, I think the biggest one, well, the biggest two to be honest, is Pink and Vico and what happens with Vino and Taysom. But it's like we could be here with the most Frankenstein duos ever that should never work in a million years, but they're just stuck together and they don't really have a choice. I think it's going to be the most exciting off season, the most amount of scrims everyone's going to be watching, because probably out of the 50 players playing Noble, 30 or 40 will be new duos who are trying to sort things out.
No, genuinely, I expect the Grands Lobby to have of the 50 teams, it's going to be like 38, 39 of them are just new teams. It feels like it's going to be crazy. Before we talk about some of the potential ones, because I got a list from some of the NA ones. I think Quanti made like a list yesterday. His one was troll. I do know his one was troll, but just to look at some of the people who are trying to split and everything. Before we talk about the potential splits, what do you guys actually think of people having this panic before globals? Do you think they are right to panic in this way? What's the vibes on that?
I'd say it's the reason for it happening, first of all, is the result of like we talked about before. There's a lot of new fresh faces at the top that have now qualified to LAN, and all the big names end up performing well below everyone else's expectations. So I think for some teams the panic is fine, because it's clearly not working for some of these teams, and it clearly hasn't been working for them for a very long time. For other teams, it's the lack of variety of new duos, especially at the top level, and I'd say that applies a little bit more to EU than to NA, because EU has those reserve tier ones that you can possibly play with. In NA, there's a lot more tier ones at the top, so it's a little bit easier to find a new duo. So in EU, I don't think some of them are justified. For NA, I'd say most of them are probably justified in this case.
Yeah, I want to. About NA. I was waiting for you to go, but about NA, it's most of them just, I feel like, didn't really play the game this season, and that comes back to maybe customs and scrims not being that good, so people aren't as motivated. But Booga, who started a lot of the, the silly season, the off season, right? He barely touched the game. I've heard things that he didn't even open the game for like 3 weeks. In that 3 gap, he didn't open the game once. It's like, and it's just that is not acceptable. And it's kind of sinking in. You're like, wait a second, I could not qual globals. If I have another performance like this, I'm not in globals. And if you're Booga or if you're Tayson or if you're even Vino, Pink, any of these, and you're not making globals, that is the whole year done for you. By June, your year is basically over.
Yeah, I think also like it'll matter on which level of team you are, right? Because I think obviously we've been talking a lot about Vino and Tayson. You go into their shoes. The question, I guess, for players of that caliber is, it's not can we qual to globals. It's can we win globals? And do I have this team that's capable of winning globals with this? And if not, who am I picking up to replace X member? Where I think, because, like you mentioned, it'll be top 12, top 13, 40, 15, something like that to qualify you to the globals on EU next season.
Which is easy, it sounds like, right?
For some of these caliber teams, that should be easy. But for other teams, if you're in the top 25 to top 40, maybe top 50, if you're like a team who's like a sure bet maybe to make grands, but not necessarily do that well, which there's obviously a lot of those teams on every region, then it's a little bit of a different question, because it's not a question of can we win? It's a matter of can I find someone I can top 15 with, someone who, if we have a good day, could we manage to do that? And those kind of players, there's a lot more of those that are available, because almost all of those players are not the teams who've already qualified, because they're obviously like the tier 1 of the tier 1s.
Yeah. It's a very interesting dynamic. I can't wait for us to do like our way too early predictions next season, and just like based off of one like noble session, we just rate all those teams and determine their fate.
I mean, that's probably the best way of determining it.
Yeah.
I mean, customs are saved now. We were going to talk about it. Might as well mention it now because we're in the topic. Epic faved customs. We can finally play tournament setting customs with the right loophole, correct spawn rates, no cars, no NPCs. It's harder to get banned now, not really, but it's nice. And I think now with this split, I think scrims are going to be better than ever. They're going to be so much more fun to watch now, because all of these teams are in their struggle season and they actually have some good things to play with. That's not going to be some guy throwing a rock on your head because he's angry.
The thing is I'm happy Epic did this, right? Because customs for the past year have been verging on useless, right? For a lot of teams. But how is it taking a year to get back to where we were before? Because nothing has changed from a year ago when we had Arena and had customs through Arena. We are at the exact same point. Like, it is just insane to me. But I think in general, like for a lot of these new teams, it's going to be exciting to watch. I think not to sell out to Noble, whatever. I think customs are going to be the most fun to watch they've ever been, with literally 3 weeks until FNCS. And all these duos are going to have to figure it out and what's going to happen. Like, I cannot wait to watch it all and see it all, how it all pans out.
I'm gonna get up the comp report tweet, because he tweeted last night like a list of teams that like confirmed publicly split, but there's also a bunch that are like, not necessarily confirmed, but it really looks like they are split. So Clicks and Epic World obviously confirmed.
Control scroll in there, maybe.
Can we get in? There we go.
Explaining it to your grandparents. The control button, it's on the left
hand. I don't know why you had to explain to me. I could just you could just
I'm explaining it to Levin, man.
A bit patronizing, mate, but it's fine. No, but Clicks and Epic World confirmed split up. Epic Well, made a tweet showing a text message that he got from Clicks, and Clicks' response was very much like, "You're my favorite duo ever. I love you, bro. Good luck." Blah 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 blah. All that sad sobby shit. But they split up. Trashy and Skittles, after placing 4th, after only being a couple of points away from actually making globals, they split up. Maz and Paper split up, which I don't think is much of a surprise, to be honest. But Maz and Paper split up. Aviv and Chubb split up again. Probably not much of a surprise. Miro and Dukes, after having a bit of a nightmare in Grands, split up as well. And then our EU boys, Paco and Mixon, who moved to NA together, have split up and are looking for different people to play with. In terms of rumors we've seen when it comes to NA, obviously there's been Booger and Ages, people saying they've split up. People are throwing Booger in a bunch of conversations. There's been rumors about Yomzo and Rise splitting up as well. I've seen Rise and Yomzo in a bunch of those potential new teams. I don't know if there's any others off the top of my head that are like really big that I'm missing out right now. But for the most part, like most top teams in NA that haven't qualified are available, it feels like. There doesn't seem to be anyone who's like, we are 100% sticking.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy. But the biggest surprise out of all these, as I saw by Reese's reaction as well, is Trashy and Skittles.
Yeah.
Like they came 7th last Grands, 4th this Grands. They're clearly a good duo, easily can make globals. And if you're Trashy and Skittles, I think winning globals is maybe a stretch too far, but making globals and doing well at globals, they could easily do. To then split, I don't think anyone's really said like who ended up splitting with who, unless I haven't seen. But the exciting thing is, apparently Paco is living with Trashy. And now that's all I'm seeing is Paco play with Trashy and Paco playing with Trashy and getting Paco to take a spot off NA. I'm more than happy for. But yeah, like I think there's going to be some exciting duos. And maybe for a second season in a row, NA might be more exciting than EU to watch.
No, and it's going to be really fun. All those teams, especially just because, like, again, especially because we almost know 100% that even after they've all make their new teams, it's still not locked in until it's still not locked in until semis, really. Like, really, with these guys, it's like mid semis, they'll all split up again anyway. I think we got a list of EU ones. We got the list that KXR has made. Oh dear, we need to zoom in on this one. So are the names on the left just all the people who have split? If we can,
they're all looking for duo, yeah.
All these people on the left, these names looking for duo. So we got Pink, Janice, Vulcan, Texas after playing with each other for a long time have split up. Wox, who did pretty all right in Grand, split up. Shamoki, Pixie, Kiduo after dropping Kiro and not making Grands. He's now looking again. I mean, that is
the consequences of my own actions.
I mean, that one is a howler. I don't know. Yeah. Noms and Cringe obviously splitting up. I think Noms can't play next season.
He can't. So apparently he's on holiday for Heats because he tweeted yesterday. Because Cringe tweeted Noms can't play. Then Noms tweeted I can play. Just Heats I'll be on like 60p.
Yeah,
so,
he said, "Can I call Boop? Do you think I can qualify 40 ping on a laptop?" Basically, is what he asked.
Yeah, so basically can't play. But even looking at this list and potentially more, we don't know about Vino and Taysom. We don't know about some other duos. It's like there's going to be some really, really exciting duos. You can already see with some of these players, like you put them two duos or two players together, they could make some really, really good duos.
So, I know Boop's sad about Cade and Diox.
Yeah, man. It was the dynamic duo that wasn't that dynamic, honestly. I was gonna ask what you guys thought of. So there's one rumor that always goes around, and it was one that was last season as well, and it was Veno and Pink coming together at some point, right? And the question, and it'll go into a conversation we'll have in a little bit as well, is like, in theory, that as a duo could sound decent, right? But if you play with Tayson, you're expecting to win. Do you have that same notion if Veno and Pink play together?
I still think, I'll touch on it because we're talking about it. I mean, Pink and Vico to me are the biggest underperforming duo this season. And we all had them in our expectation for at minimum top 4, top 5, and some people had them to win. I think if you put Vino with Pink, I don't think that expectation changes at all. I think the standard is still the same. Pink is still a caliber of player who could, in the right season, win an FNCS. He is that caliber of player. When you're seeing Swizzy and Vanyak winning, I don't think there's no reason why Pink can't win. And Vino as well is you would expect Vino to be able to perform with Pink with their natural chemistry as well. I don't think it's really going to be an issue of, we're only going to be looking for top 5 or just quality globals. I think it's the exact same expectations.
I mean, for me,
casual slander of Swizzy and Vanyak.
No, but I'm saying
those guys can do it.
I'm more saying outside the usual top 3, top 4 teams.
Yeah, but I would say on an individual talent level,
I don't think it's comparable.
It's not those two duos. Yeah, those obviously. I think Vino's individual talent is significantly higher than Pink's. Obviously, Pink's a phenomenal player and has the potential to win, absolutely. But
I don't know.
The discrepancies are interesting, right? What do you get? Because that's always the biggest reason. Is Veno and Pink, because they want to constantly do a Cash Cup together. The most prestigious tournament of them all. It's like, okay, is that level of Tayson and Pink that close? How do we measure that? I don't know.
I'm ready. I'm ready for more scraps at land. The queue is ready. The line is ready.
Queasy, Thomas HD, Swizzy.
For the
Oh
audio
my
listeners, for the audio listeners, Swizzy just said in the chat, "This Harry guy hates us." The list is getting long.
Yeah, I
The list
told
is
you.
getting
Like
very long.
by Dallas, there is going to be a queue. It's a meet and greet. Who hates me?
Meet
Oh,
and
man.
beat, bro. They're gonna be.
Meet and beat.
More
I don't know. I don't know about meet and beat, bro.
don't know about me.
Not meet and beat.
No meet and beat.
Not meet
All
and
I was
beat,
saying is
please.
like start
Oh,
of this season, you know, Swizzy and Vanyat, Vika and Pink, I'd say they probably were like at the start of the season what we expected, pretty similar level. I would say both around, you know, top 5, very similar level. And obviously as the season developed and who they performed, that's why I'm saying about Pink is at the start of the season, he's always around the same level. You know, he's always a top 5 team, maybe like just outside top 5. And I think, yeah, you put him with Vino, who, yeah, obviously Console Cup is not the most prestigious tournament in the world, but, you know, they are good friends. They have, it seems like, talked a lot together. You know, they're good mates. I
The
feel
chemistry
like they
feels right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like it should work.
I think the vibes would be good. Yeah.
But whether or not you
Yeah.
pull the trigger to drop Tayson for Pink,
Yeah.
I think that's a hard question.
Yeah, I think in that situation, it's more likely. Like, so again, obviously, the rumor that has been going around a lot is that like Veno will go play NA with Clicks, and assuming that doesn't happen, because I think there's a lot of reasons why that probably won't happen. If you're Veno, do you stay with Tayson or do you play with Pink? I think you stay with Tayson.
I agree.
I don't think. I think the potential, like, unless there's like something really bad in terms of like the relationship between Veno and Tayson, I think you're better off just like staying, because again, the way you framed it there, Boop, is like the expectations. If anything, you probably have less expectations of what they can do as a team with Veno and Pink, and so it's like it's not like this clear upgrade. The
It's the
dynamics,
ceiling.
maybe it's like the seal. Yeah, the ceiling.
Listen, you can get
definitely-
a heal with Pink. Like there might be short term like heal with Pink, right?
Yeah.
And then, but like with Taste, it's like you can break through that. Like there's potential for greatness. You just haven't found the perfect mix yet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You probably say the ceilings. In terms of the floor is there to qual for globals with both of them. Either way,
easily.
like
Yeah.
next season. Like again, I don't even think like if you're Veno, I don't think he even worries about it. I think he probably reckons whoever he plays with, he's gonna qual, right? So then again, then the question becomes: so who do you actually really just want to play globals with? Would you rather play globals with Tayson, or would you rather play globals with Pink? And I don't know.
A LAN play right now.
I mean, I was
Pink
gonna say that,
has
yeah.
better placements on LAN, I
Yeah.
think, in general,
Yeah.
right? So maybe.
Invitational 19th
Saudi,
and then 10th at
yeah.
globals. So yeah, in Saudi.
So
Whereas-
maybe in that situation, if you're Veno, maybe you do want to play with Pink. But yeah, I'm not really sure. It's a tough one. I don't think it's gonna happen. If you ask me what my personal opinion is as 11-2K, like, do I think those two will be playing with each other next season? I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think this is a great transition, because this is one of the questions I think a lot of my chat has been asking me to take since I said it, or like I questioned it during the FNCS, is do you guys still consider Tayson to be a tier 1 player after 4 consecutive bad placements? So for reference, Tayson's placements so far in the last 4 FNCSs are 15th, 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 and 11th. Is he still there?
So
I'd say yes until unless if he duds the rest of this year, I think then we have to have a conversation. For how good Tayson is, you know, he did win in FNCS in Chapter 4. You know, he is still, and he came
second in the next one.
The next one, yeah. So he still is of that caliber. But if he either doesn't make global somehow, or he does bad at globals, you know, like scrapes in like a 15th, and then comes like 15th on globals, then we'd have an issue, because you can't have a year and a half of top 15s and still be considered tier 1. But at the end of the day, it is Tayson. It's so hard to then just sit there and go, he's not tier 1.
I think
Any other player though, right?
so this is the key though, and when we have these conversations about like tier 1, tier 2, like a lot of these things end up just becoming semantics, right? It's like how you as an individual define that word, and I don't want to do that. I don't want this conversation to be that. But one aspect of like the whole tier 1 thing that is very important and plays a part, even if people don't acknowledge it, is that the respect from your peers. So like if the rest of the tier 1s view Tayson as a tier 1, then that does a lot more for him in terms of like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like how the placements work, right? Like, because you're right.
Yeah.
A lot of other people if they had those exact same placements, we wouldn't even be questioning. We'd be saying, nah, they're not tier 1. Nah, they've fallen off, or they're washed now, blah, blah, blah. But I think, like, at the top level, at least from what I've gauged from just when I talk to people, it doesn't feel like those top level players view Taysom crazy differently, you know, even after these placements. And so for that reason, I'm more inclined to say, yes, he is still tier 1. I do agree, though, if after this year, if Major 3, it's a dud. Imagine he doesn't even call, if he doesn't even call globals,
He can
then I think, then I think you start having those conversations, and it's probably clear cut, right? If he makes globals again and then he duds, he doesn't have that performance, again, we start having those conversations. But I'm still reserving judgment.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think like the main measurement for that for me is also you mentioned, right, of what the players think. The players around, they see more of the individual skill when they're playing with them, when they know what it's about. But I think even from our perspective, like, you know, we all almost predicted, or well, I mean, as a group, we did predict them to win FNCS, which shows we have a very high regard still for Taysom as an individual player already. I think when we get to the point where we go, could Taysom win an FNCS? And the answer is no. That's when you stop putting him into that category. We are all still in agreement that he could easily win an FNCS until proven otherwise right now.
It seems like, to answer my own question, I agree fully. Like, it doesn't, the placements don't matter when you've already won 5, you know, at that point, right? And like, and it's not even like 5 old ones. It's not like we're talking about Booga World Cup times here. We're talking about 1 year ago in Fortnite isn't that much. It's 3 tournaments away. And because we have a very much lack of big tournaments in our scene, you know, go back to the conversation about lands and stuff, like, it hasn't been that many tournaments since he's won an FNCS, right? Even though it's been an entire year, it hasn't. And he's always been in the conversation there. But I agree, like, at some point you'd have to call it after having, like, you have to like look deep, like, is it a lack of motivation? Is it him just not really caring anymore? Or is it a lack of confidence? But until that happens, until we don't consider him actually to be one of the winners, I'd agree that he's always going to be tier 1. And it's not like we're talking about a random person. It's Taysom, you know, that's just the main thing of it, is like, he's always going to place well. And there's never a doubt that he's making grand finals. I think that's also one of the differences between, like, maybe like the fall off of Chapix might be a pretty good one, because like Chapix was on a similar level to Taysom after trios and all of that stuff. He was like the best player in the world, one of the best players in the world, and then just sort of stopped playing a little bit and then end up changing his placements. Like, top 15 in the grands is still pretty fucking good, you know. Like, it's not horrible.
Not by their standards.
By their standards, like, damn, they're not getting second or third. Like, what's happening? So, it'll be scary to see what's happening.
This conversation really makes me want to go and actually just watch their games again, just because. Because my thing as well is that, like, even when you start looking at it on Veno's side, right? I remember last season, near the start of this season, right, when everybody was having those conversations about like who are the best fraggers in the world, right? My thing is, a lot of people was still leaving Veno off of that list, and I was like, well, that's why are we being fickle here? Yes, they came 15th, but when you watch the games, like, he's still Veno in game. He still like has that fragging ability. He still has that fragging power. In a lot of tournaments, again, this season, he's been the leader. Like, I think in all the qualifiers this season, he was the damage leader in a bunch of those, blah, 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 blah. But then again, right, it's like, when do you start looking, like, at what point do you weigh the placements that heavily? I think in general in Fortnite, we've always had a problem with like weighing placements. I think like by default, people just see a placement and they don't want to look further than that, which is part of what our job is, to provide more so that people don't just look at that placement. But at a certain point, you do just look at the placements and go, well, okay, you know, we can make all the excuses we want for you, but you know, it's tough.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, you go,
It's funny because that season that Taysom won with Mustache, I don't think a lot of people even thought they were going to win that FNCS, right? Like, it was, that one was, I don't remember who the favorite. I think maybe it was Queasy Veno or Clear Cut's the favorite that season. I don't fully remember, but like that was like one of the few seasons. Like, yeah, maybe they don't see
Malibuca, Mustache, I think, were favorites because they were playing. Not Malibuca, Mustache. Malibuca and Thomas were favorites because I think they were playing for Ireland every game. Right, that was like the first season of Ireland. And they would get Island, and that's when you got the, what did you get from Island again?
Pulse rifle.
Yes, they had the
Overclocked
pulse
pulse
rifles.
rifle.
Yeah, they were the favorites because they had that rifle every game, and people were like,
Yeah.
"Well, they just have to win if they get Island
Yeah.
every game." You know?
That's like one of the things. Like when he's in his darkest time, when you're down is where he suddenly rides. He's like fucking Batman or something. But like I'm expecting the comeback at some point. Like it's almost inevitable that he's just gonna win another FNCS at some point. When that is though, whether it's in this next season or chapter 6, remains to be seen.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note on the Tayson point in particular that he's done shit before, like much worse than this. Like in chapter 3, when he was like third first season, second, and that was when he played with Thomas, and then switched to Chapix for after placing third with Thomas. Okay, and then in the season after, 23rd, and then they went to Invitational and 32nd. So it's like a couple 15ths in a row.
He's
Like
died before. And
Yeah,
risen.
He's literally Jesus.
He's been resurrected already at this point.
Yeah.
And it's more just a question of like, how long does it take? When's it going to happen? Like speed it
I
up.
think if anybody wants to have questions about Tayson and conversation about Tayson, the one that I want to have is like, when are we finally going to get a big LAN performance? That's the one I care about. Because you make a good point, Reese. It's like, we've seen like these fickle FNCSs come and go. It's like, who cares, right? But it's like, I think everyone is still, when we have the GOAT debates, I think the GOAT debate is in a really weird spot in Fortnite right now because it's in a very awkward, weird spot because, you look at a bunch of things and everybody sort of wants to say Tayson, but then there's now been enough lands to where you'd be like, well, he's not had the LAN performance, and then there's other people who have like some good LAN performances, some online. It's just a weird place.
Weird.
And I wonder what it looks like come like globals, like after globals, depending on what happens there, like it could either make it more weird or it can like step things.
If Tayson doesn't do well at globals, like where is he in the GOAT debate?
That's the thing, because now we have 3, because World Cup was so long ago, right? But
just
now we have
3.
3 international lands in a row where you go, okay, as time goes on, we have to start putting land placements a little bit higher than just the online. Obviously, I think we've had so much online that we can't obviously ignore that. But like, say Cammy and Seti come like first or second again. It's like now you have Cammy first, second, first, or first, second, second, or something like that.
Yeah,
lands plus everything else.
Placements.
And now it's like, well, we start to devalue those online FNCS a little bit more, and as time progresses,
Or if Mira wins again.
Yeah.
Mira wins again, then you might have to just say.
Depends on the lag at the LAN.
Again, but that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, I like if I'm doing early predictions, I don't even know who Mira's playing with next season. So I'm not saying I think
he don't know either.
like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, right. But it's like in theory, if that was to happen, like you then would have to go, hold on a minute. Like it could get really, really weird this year with how. But yeah, I do agree. I think we need to start putting more weight in like these. Big international events.
At the end of the year, not yet.
Not yet.
We've got plenty of time. And I mean, I do want to see like Tayson, if he doesn't play with Vino, as we talked about, and we talked about on the stream or on the podcast, it's like, I want to see him play with an underrated player. I want to see Tayson be the...
You need someone that's hungry.
Yeah, a hungry player who, like a Harris or someone like that, who could sit there and play with him. But the thing is with Tayson as well, do you want him to be the IG?
Bro.
Yeah,
I was going to say
I do. Well, I mean, it's the first Falcon player I could think of. But it's like
Chicho
Tayson. Yeah, that was the one I went to instantly. Yeah.
But, I mean, would Chicho and Trulex split?
No, but I think if you were going to put like a 2 duos together like that, one makes way more sense.
No, true. I just didn't think. I didn't think of Chicho. But it's like I wonder. Is like, what does Tayson need as a duo? Do you think he's still going to be Do you think he'll still be the IGL and still be the one?
It's very difficult with Tayson though, because like Tayson is historically and very well known as one of the hardest teammates to have, right? From what I've heard from people before, like he is very direct. He has no bullshit. Like you need a strong personality, and Veno has that now as well. And like you need to be good enough to say "fuck you, Tayson, man." This is the way this thing should go. And like you need a few placements to back that up. I don't think there's many people out there that. Excuse the glaze, but are able to
I'm waiting for it.
be a to withstand the presence of Tayson, like they has his aura.
Yeah, his aura, bro.
His presence. Yeah. Yeah,
I
like
agree.
who can handle that? Like,
No, that is
like
true.
if Vico would get bitched, for example,
couldn't,
with
yeah,
Taser,
you
yeah.
couldn't.
Is it bad? Is it bad to be bitched by
Queasy would be
Taser?
Queasy Taser would be fucking nuclear. Holy shit!
Yeah, that
In
would be
terms
nuclear.
of
We
the
need,
shouting that
we
have.
need-
You just ain't got enough kill power there. You need more.
Wow.
Oh,
I mean, it's just, that's not a roast. But
Yeah.
you need
It's
you
got to
like
be
the state
Taysom
of
Hen.
Fortnite now. You need someone who just is a killing machine. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
need someone who you put them in a situation, they are just going to kill everybody on your layer in an end game, and just that's that. You know.
Mhm.
But,
I think you
yeah.
just got to go to Kinch stats from grand finals and find the person who's the highest damage
Ratio.
that has not qualled to
Yeah.
globals yet.
Right.
And that's
who
just who you're putting
isn't cheating? Who isn't cheating or has been
Yeah.
banned?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. But I think the whole Taysom debate is going to be. I mean, it's not going to end this season. I don't think. Like, it's a weird one where unless they just dominate and win, and then it's like, oh well, you know, Taysom just had a couple of bad seasons, whatever, right? But it's hard to see that right now as like, oh, they're just going to dominate and just win everything. This conversation is going to go on for the next 6 months and even after globals as well. I don't think it's going to be one that ends very shortly.
Only ends if he just wins globals.
Yeah,
Just win, bro.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's the
just
only way
win,
that
just
ends.
win more.
That's not that hard,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
That's the only way that combo ends. Cool. Any more uglies? Any more uglies?
What else we got? Disconnects. That was one I had. Random server disconnects of players.
Yeah.
It didn't end up making the most difference because I think, as I mentioned earlier, where we saw Swizzy disconnect one game. I think
Thomas
he
disconnected
said
one
that.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thomas disconnected, which probably was the difference between 7th and 6th. Because that game Queasy had to play out as a solo, and I can't remember any points he got.
He missed
solo
a
after
kill
that,
as
but-
well. Yeah.
Yeah, they missed a kill, and I think he was like fully stacked at the time. I could be wrong on that. I can't remember. So that probably made the difference between 6th and 7th. But the fact that this is just still happening is insane. You know, we had basically a good few top slots probably changed. You know, tens of thousands of dollars between one of these different thresholds changed purely because of the fact that the game just decided to kick you out at some point, and it's happened all season.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Like even on a lower level, like I think it was game 1 where Uppel got in as a solo, 1v2'd Fredoxy and Trippin, and then he got kicked out. So it's like he already got in as a solo and then got kicked out when he was 400 above as a solo. It's
I
just
think
like
that might have been like game 1 of
Yeah, it was
Grand
game 1.
Final.
It was,
Yeah. 'Cause I remember we were watching him, and I remember like saying to Minnie in the back, why are we on like the one guy that didn't get his teammate in the game? Like maybe we shouldn't watch this guy, but yeah, that was
It's just like this is the highest level of competition we have, and it's genuinely people are struggling to play out 12 games. It's just, to be honest, it's just unacceptable. It's not even close to like there's an excuse you think about. It's just unacceptable.
You're right there, lads.
Yeah, Boob has gone into grayscale, bro.
What's happened to me?
He opened up OBS. He opened up OBS.
Yeah, someone
Yeah.
said to look at the donations. I was gonna look at it real quick, but it said
Oh.
Tayson and
This is a bad camera view. I like this
it
one.
wasn't even worth it. Now my camera's dead. But he said is Tayson and Marius like a deadly duo? Was the question. Answer that while I try to fix this.
Tayson and Marius, I don't even know, man.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know
I
who
still want
works
to.
for Tayson.
I want Savage and Marius. I still want Savage and Marius. I think that is like Marius, who is one of the best fighters we have on the region. And then you have Savage, who I still think is a top player. You know, I think Savage and Marius is a duo who would suit each other's playstyles really well, especially in endgame playing, I think, more towards Savage's, you know, mid-ground potentials. And I don't know. I just think, like, looking at those two as players, I think they would absolutely cook.
Not to completely ignore what you just said,
Yeah.
but I would love to know who Tayson thinks is the best fit for him as like a duo player. Like if he could pick any player in the world, like who does he think is the best fit to play with? Because I don't know who I don't know who like is a good fit with Tayson.
That's what I was saying. It's like,
Drop him a
what-
DM and see what he gets. See what he replies.
I don't think I'll
back.
get a nice answer. I don't think I'll get a nice answer, you know? In terms of more uglies, I did have another one that I wanted to. Hopefully, the clip doesn't lag too much, or if it does, hopefully, it like stops lagging after a second. I think we saw the biggest milk of all time in the grand finals. Please, why is the clip just like frozen?
Please get up. No, I thought.
Hopefully, it's not too laggy. But this was totally.
Pretty horrific.
Yeah, it's a bit laggy, but
There you
Is
go,
it- is it
Fortnite
really
goes
bad?
crazy.
yeah.
This is just Twitter bad quality. The quality looks bad for me as well.
Yeah.
Like,
You can see what's happening.
Yeah.
Bro,
Come on,
I
man.
choked. No.
So
Come
for the
on.
audio listeners, it's Oatly
No,
missing
my-
every single shot in existence.
In a guy who's 60 HP, and that team ended up winning OC Grounds.
Yeah,
I
by 2
mean-
points. So essentially, if had Oatly hit 60 more damage, he basically the FNCS winners, Danath and Tinka, would not have won the FNCS. You know, a lot of people when I was streaming yesterday were talking about this, being like, "Oh my god, Oatly's so shit! Can't you believe he plays an hour of Kovacs a day and he missed those shots?" But the reality is, like, high pressure situation, like 1v1 at the end. Sometimes you're just gonna choke, and that's the way it is. You know, sometimes you just fumble,
You miss. Yeah.
and that's what it
Yeah,
is.
you just miss. That's how it is.
They still had 10 kill
I mean,
seconds.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they still a good
crazy
game.
right?
I mean,
It's
for
a
someone
really
who just
good
sits
game,
there and plays like
It-
pubs all day and just.
it's not pubs, it's World Cup solos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
He plays.
He's a
World Cups.
15-time FNCS winner. That's some respect on
Yes,
the
I
man.
forgot about.
Go debate is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of milks, though, I'd say the one that people should probably focus on is the Alex and Worthy one, because I don't know how they didn't win FNCS.
Do we have a clip? Is there a
There-
clip?
it's not a clip. It's more like a combination of the worst endgame I've ever seen, with Grimgate coin max mats into a 30 moving zone, and they lose FNCS by 2 points because they don't know what they're. I mean, I don't know if they don't know what they're doing, but I don't know what they were doing that last game. It was sad to see because those were the guys. At least Alex is always getting considered like, you know, OC is dog shit. We all admit it, but like Alex, he's the prodigal son. You know, he's up on the pedestal. He's on Muzz levels. But then seeing that game just made him seem like an OC player. Unfortunately,
I don't get Alex and Worthy because they get talked about and they are very, very good. And it comes to every single grand, and day one they're never in the lead. And I just don't get what goes wrong because I don't. Obviously, surprisingly, I don't watch OC, but all I see every single time is Alex and Worthy are dominating. As in this grand, they're landing Grim Gate, everything's good. And then day one comes around, they're not winning. And day two, they end up coming second or third, make a little bit of a comeback. And I'm just so confused because I feel like if you're Alex and Worthy level, you should just be winning by 300 points every single time without fail.
So this is why, just to add on to this a bit, this is why whenever people used to call like Epic Well the GOAT for winning NA West every season, I was like, well, this is like, you'd think he was dominating every season. Like you check leaderboard after day one and then like third or fourth. And I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. Isn't he supposed to be rolling through this reason every season? And it's like a similar thing of what you're saying there. It's like you'd think they were just rolling every time, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Yeah, I don't know.
we're talking about other regions, by the way, just for the people that always say we don't talk. Look, we're talking about those.
We are
Yeah.
talking about. We are talking about.
just
and
said
we're-
it was
We're
rubbish.
hating though, but
and we're going
Yeah.
to talk about Brazil next because the situation there
Yeah.
was a nightmare. Reese,
Yeah.
what actually happened? I think you broke it down.
So out of all the players, outside of the team that won just not being good, and the region as a whole just being lackluster, I saw basically the team that came in first. From what I understand, they were in our chat, by the way, earlier. At the
yeah, I
start of the
saw
stream.
that. It was like hashtag
they
free
came in
Randu.
first, yeah. So essentially, what I've heard was that they were teaming. Now, apparently, they weren't teaming in grands, from as much as I understand. I've not looked too into it, but apparently they were like doing some sketchy stuff in duos, and reportedly they should have been banned already, but they weren't. Same thing with the team that came second, but they were cheaters.
Oh,
who
they were
had
hacking.
Sold
Yeah.
their accounts to, or they are players who'd sold their accounts to very obvious aimbotters who played all 12 of 12 games and then got banned after. So Persa, who was in third, has now won FNCS, basically.
That's
Yeah.
mental.
And quality
How they go-
goals. Yeah.
Yeah. How did I wonder, right? And I'm wondering what you guys think. If first place is teaming and gets banned, second place is cheating, at what point do you actually consider a restart? Because that is like at a certain level, that is so competitively unfair for the rest of the teams.
It's Fortnite. We don't restart. Come on, man.
That's
no,
true.
no.
Yeah.
But
Don't
let's
even
say it's
play it.
not Fortnite. It's
I hadn't
yeah.
thought
I mean,
of that.
there.
That is a good point. Like if you were doing a tournament in like anything else and that like level of you know cheating was going on or like what lack of competitiveness or whatever, it's like you would probably consider restarting the tournament. Yeah.
I mean, I think we forget that last season 14 teams were moved from FNCS without talking about it after it was over.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's
Fucking
good.
we're not-
close the dagger
No, they got
bag over their
mass
heads.
supported, man. They got
No,
mass
no,
they got
supported.
massive, yeah.
I mean, there's another one that with alongside Brazil with the situation that happened for NA, right? Like the second Heats was done, less than 24 hours later, 5 teams got banned. You know, it was this epic fucking witch hunt of all these pros being like, oh, this guy, he sold his account to his grandmother back in 2021, man. Like, I have the proof, I have the Discord DMs, and this guy's a cheater, and this guy's this and that. It's actually insane. 5 people got banned within 24 hours. And the crazy thing about that is, if you think about the process with Epic Games, it takes ages for people to get banned, usually, as you can see with Brazil, right? So we clearly have this evidence that we knew of, or that we are getting. How is that happening before Heat is finished? You know, it's incredibly unacceptable, and that's usually the word we always use with shit like this.
Yeah. It's just I don't even. People got talking about that, but people got added back to the leaderboard. Some got banned and then added back afterwards. It's just like, and then you have people who qualified from lowers who then got, you know, the people got banned from uppers, so they end up being 25th in uppers and like 12th in lowers. So they qualified through both. So it's like, who do you actually move through? It's like the most scuffed system they've ever had.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of that mess this season. Where did he place?
32nd. So it was not the worst. He did die out of the sky to Peterbot one game while they were gliding in. So, which was like very funny, but it's just strange seeing all of the teams like have such slow delays, etc. Cease pulled all the string. So you know, I find this interesting that people obviously see Cease saying all this, but I see what Cease is sending into the Discords because we're in the same one, and he was not witch hunting actually. He was complaining about people being banned at one point.
Reese is going to jail for breaking NDA now.
I'm breaking NDA, but he wasn't witch hunting. That's all I can say.
He was doing it in private with all of his context.
Well, that also may be potentially what was happening, you know. But he wasn't witch hunting. I mean, the reality is, I would if I was like,
I was going to say, if you're
like, hell yeah, I'm jumping into replays.
Everyone does it. Like, even if they're like, I think a Reason had like 6 spots away from being qualified, and he got all 6 banned too. Like, people, they got motion. So
they got motion. We have got.
I mean, we had Aura, the Ghost.
You have to have motion to get qualified.
It is true to some extent in Fortnite. Like the communication is so lacking, which was one of the other things in my ugly there. It's like there's such a lack of communication. You kind of have to be close to the inside to actually get anything happening. You know, we're basically the Illuminati here.
Yeah, it's this. We talked about obviously about we talked about last season, and the same with communications. Like, what other esport would a top team like on Brazil, first and second get banned, and nothing is said? And EU last season, 40 teams get removed, nothing is said. And in NA, teams get removed off the leaderboard and Heats, and nothing is said. It's not that hard to make a blog post and go, this is the reasons they got banned. Here they are. These are the accounts, and just go on. You don't need to sit there and make a 16-page document going around each individual thing. Just make it very simple for us to understand. You can have a TLDR at the top if you want. And then at least it informs the community into why these things happened. And you wake up, you know, imagine you're a Brazil fan. You went to bed like, oh, this team won. That's pretty good. You wake up the next morning and third place was won. And you're just like, well, what the fuck's happened? How do I to know?
Exactly. No, true. It's
the one singular Brazil fan that went to bed.
No, they're passionate. But I think one of the main issues here is that once a team is removed, you don't know if they're removed because they were cheating or because of or for whatever reason. So you play with that player next season, you run the risk of playing and then them getting disqualified again because they might have been banned or whatever. And the lack of communication there means that players themselves aren't sure if they can play with this player because they don't know if their season will be ruined by that decision or not.
That happened this season. This season with Splash and Nate. So Nate, obviously, last season, he got removed off the leaderboard. No one knows why. Splash then plays with Nate, and he gets banned just before Heats. And you don't know why he's been removed or anything. Yeah.
So the one thing that people do need to know is that, you know, a criminal always is innocent, you know? In this case, like if someone murders someone, they're never going to say they murdered them, right? Same thing in Fortnite applies. Life lesson. When someone does something and they get banned, they know what they're doing. And sometimes, you know, we know that from the Discord and stuff like that, that sometimes they get sent the reason, you know, and they won't tell us the reason in the Discord, for example.
Publicly, the player that gets it will never tell.
This guy, like there's so often do people maybe cry wolf is the worst terminology, not the right terminology here, but like they say like, oh man, it's so unfair, I got mass reported, fuck Mr. Savage, fuck Mongrel, or like when the heal off guy got banned, for example. Oh, Epic wants to stop heal off. Look, they're stopping it. Hashtag save heal off. Like, these people know what they're doing. They know what they got banned for 99% of the time. The 1% of the time, people don't get communication or they get it too late. But most times, Epic sends them the message like, hey, you got banned for this. But then they want to change the narrative because they don't want to look like pieces of shit. Yeah.
Because when you know Epic won't say it publicly, you can just control the narrative. Like, you can just say whatever.
Which is an issue in itself, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough about cheaters. Was there? I think Harry, you had one more. Did we talk about Pink and Vico?
I touched on it a little bit, but yeah, I think, in my opinion, they are the ugly. In my opinion, for this Grands, they are the biggest underperforming team we had. Obviously, their landing spot situation did not help them. Chain of Hades and EMPs being removed the day or a couple of days before Grands, it doesn't help them. But even then, 32nd for a team of Pink and Vico's caliber is just not a level you'd ever expect out of them. You know, when we were all putting them in top 5 or top 10 at minimum, and they're coming 32nd, not even close to breaking the top 10. Yeah. It's just, there's no surprise they end up splitting after that.
Yeah, no, that's a tragic performance, honestly, by their standards. It's weird because how long have they been playing together now? It's been like a year now. Maybe?
Was it mid chapter 4?
They were playing together when when Mercedes and Tayson won FNtasia, right? So that was like a year and 2 months
ago.
Major
1? I don't think
Chapter 4,
they played
season
Major
3.
1. No, because Mercedes and Tayson won Major 1 and Major 1.
This one with Nebs.
Yeah.
1.
Oh, was it?
I don't know about 2 because Pink didn't qualify.
It was Vico Kylie. Yeah, that was it. I was thinking of
I think Pink was playing with Nebs for season 2, but they didn't qual.
Yeah, then they played season 3.
Then they played season 3. So I don't think they've even been playing for a year, but it's felt like they've been playing together for ages, you know? Like, it has felt like Pink and Vico have been together for long.
Their split has felt like a long time coming, though. Like you could tell after the last performance, or not before this last FNTS, like before the new chapter, there was writing on the wall they were gonna split, and I speak to these guys sometimes. Like they were gonna split, and then like it seemed like, hey, they felt like they were kept together maybe more by BloodX than themselves potentially, and then they end up playing together, and then they do well in the qualifiers, and then it always ends up being like either a flop or they have like a very good day number 2, which sort of bandages the horrible placements or the inconsistency that they always had. So it was about time that they split. It was not, I mean, if we're talking about the EMPs and the chains being the reason why they did so badly, yes, that's why they got 30th, probably. But I don't think they would have been anywhere near the top anyways, even with the EMPs and the chains being there. Like, I don't think it would have been like Vico DM me like, hey, we got this, we got strats cooking, trust me. When I was doing my predictions, right? He was so confident. We got strats cooking for the FNCS, so, it doesn't even matter to us. And I
just went down the drain. Yeah, no, I think, definitely. Considering like the standards, like again, when I made my tweet before Grands of like who's gonna win, so many people said Vico and Pink, right? Like it was like they were in the top 5 most said names of teams people thought could win the whole damn thing. So yeah, no, definitely not the best in offers, and no real surprises that they split. It definitely felt like the writing was on the wall. And we'll see what cooks from these new duos. I definitely can expect. I don't know what Pink's like best option will be. From what we've been seeing with Vico's rumors, obviously those rumors of like Blixie, maybe Janice probably feels like a better fit for him. But there's German players there or German speaking players there that he can play with. I reckon he probably has like the best season we've ever had from him after now. Like it's just the writing's on the wall for Vico to just have like he's absorbed all the knowledge from BloodX for like half a year, and then he plays with a crazy German player, and they just fucking pop off and he plays amazing. But
Vico's legitimately a good comp player now. Like in the time that he's played with Pink, he was a little boy and he's gonna turn into a man now, and it's gonna be exciting to see what he can do with a new duo. And even with Pink, like I think Pink and Marius could be an option, like someone that is sort of a different sort of fighter, a little bit maybe more faster than Vico these days, and maybe a little bit more aggressive than Vico. There's a lot of potential for some good stuff, I think, for both of them.
I think Marius needs someone that can lead like that. I don't know as much about Zengild, but there was a discrepancy there. Every single time I watched Zengild and Marius this season, like anytime I opened a stream where there was qualifiers in like a stack lobby where there was semis, it was just like no loot below Surge. every single game I watched, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was like some scuffed solo clutch to try and come back. You know, they look so good in like cash cups and the opens and this kind of stuff, but in the set lobbies, they look really questionable this season. So I think the Pink and Marius could, you know, there's potential there.
Kaiduo could be interesting with Pink as well. I saw that name was pointed around. That could, in theory, work.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we'll find out very soon.
Yeah.
New season starts in a week, so we're gonna have
And
to
then
figure it out.
Customs is going to be instantly after that too, so people are going to be
Literally.
trying out.
Get on to seasonal awards because we are already 2.5 hours in. This is clearly going to be a 3-hour pod. But if there was ever going to be a 3-hour pod, it's going to be the grand
post-grand one. Yeah.
It makes sense. Let's get in. I don't have a drum roll effect, so sadly we can't do that. That sounds sorry, audio listeners. So to explain this, we have a couple of awards that are like more serious awards. We have a couple ones that will be a bit more fun, that we have a bit more discussion around. Essentially, the 4 awards we're going to be giving out today. We have the EU Finals MVP, the NA Finals MVP. We have a Player of the Season award, and we have a Breakout Player of the Season award as well. The way we did this is that we all submitted like our top 3 for each category. We actually received votes as well, not just from the guys here. We received votes from everybody who was on the podcast this season. So we got SPG to vote. Shout out to some of these Gunny was on twice. We had Mini Miner and Destiny Jesus vote as well. And so, yeah, big thanks to those guys for 1, coming on the show this season, and 2, submitting their votes for this. Which one do you guys want to start off with?
I'll go through the MVP, sure. Oh, no, maybe breakout.
Player of the season should be last, so breakout should be first, I guess.
Let's do breakout. So for the breakout player of the season, should I do the runners up first? Should I do the runner up first?
Yeah, do top 3 maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so in 3rd place, it was actually a tie in terms of the votes for 3rd place. Runners up. The people who... I can't say this seriously.
Oh god, I think I know.
I know.
I voted for this one. I think
I vote there as well, man. I know. Yeah. We vote for the same.
In 3rd place, tied. One of them was Oliver OG.
Yeah.
Yes, Oliver.
And the other one was Haris. I know who voted for that. It was definitely Harry.
I actually didn't. I actually put Oliver OG as my 3rd place.
Actually, I don't know who it is. Maybe I'll go back and check. But yeah, Haris and Oliver OG tied for 3rd place for breakup player of the season.
Man, is EU shit? What is that comparison?
I don't know. But I will say big ups to Oliver OG because he had a great finals performance. You know, we were comparing him to Archie, you know, at the start of the season.
Not even close anymore.
And I mean, he put all them comparisons to bed. He said, fuck Archie. Who's that brother? I don't know who that brother is.
Specifically.
He heard us. He heard us.
No, he
really.
really did hear us. So big up to Oliver OG. Any thoughts on Oliver's finals?
So yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, as you said, like he is just the NA Archie. He has those moments at endgame where it is just like, how could you mess us up this badly and play this badly and, you know, shake or whatever, right? To get 12th in an NA Grand Final, it's not like it's like an OC or something like it's an NA Grand Finals, like high level. It is incredible. I think like big ups to him. And the reason I put him in breakout is like he's gone from, well, he still probably might be a meme for some people, but he's gone from a meme to a serious player where, you know, he gets a placement like this next season. He's at Globals.
Yeah,
it's an insane thing to think about.
Yeah,
I'd tell you it's a little disrespectful to call him NA Archie. Archie might be the EU Oliver at this point. You know, you put some respect on his name.
Sure.
Honestly, the one thing that I saw from Oliver at this when I was watching him play Heat was like, this guy plays like he's never played Fortnite before. Like that, I was watching him play. It's like he was getting hit from Surge. He was taking damage. He lost all of the shield. Larson was screaming at his ass like, "Bro, stop fucking taking damage, man!" But then he was able to take that, compose it, and shout out to Quanti, by the way, because and Oliver gave him a lot of credit for like that's the type of coaching he needs. He's someone to shout at him to stop being stupid, and he did it. So you know, follow your dreams, kids. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Oliver.
I mean, I think enough said about NA, but the fact that Oliver OG came 12th and Blake and Macwood came 11th, you know,
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
New faces,
Yeah.
not new faces, but like
Macwood, new faces. The original FNCS winner.
He's reborn. He's reborn into a new man now. Okay.
bigger. I got so much respect for like guys like that who are still kicking it
Yeah.
and will like have the random good placement. It's like, why is
Mhm.
Macquid like still around? You know,
Yeah.
like I love Macquid. Like that's my
There are
guy.
better things to do these days. Like,
But you know what I mean? Like he's bro is still fighting. I respect it. Man. I respect it. The second place runner up for breakout player of the season was Sato. He received quite a few votes from all the different people. I mean, yeah, it's the last two performances in Grands have been great from Sato. He's been a great showcase of the talent he is and the player he is. And I think this one in particular, just towards the back end of day two, yeah, the guy was just going ballistic.
Yeah,
Yep.
he is, as Reece said, putting France back on the map. He is, yeah, he is just like as he is, and France has been quite disappointing for a long period of time, and to finally have a French duo to perform, which whatever anyone says about French fans, whatever, having French players do well is good for the scene. It's good to have those fans in and around the conversation for maybe they're not winning, but in and around the conversation for LAN as they did qualify this season. And Sato, performing at the level he did is a huge props to him.
I mean, French orgs are literally carrying Fortnite right now.
Yeah.
M8 and KC, like those guys are bringing some real validity to the scene. I think the last one here for the winner is very surprising. Might be very mysterious.
Yeah.
I really wonder who it is.
Yes, and your winner of breakout player of this season is Chap. There you go. Big ups to Chap.
Most important award, of course.
Yes,
It's
yes.
second place
Improved.
efforts. Yes, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, look, Chap, there's so much things we can say about Chap. Playing in his first grand finals, the best placement in duos ever, or in EU FNCS duos for a player playing in their first season, tying Queasy and Trulix from way back in the day. I
Big
mean,
shoes. Yeah.
wow. Like, you look at the trajectory this guy is on, and you're looking, again, as long as things just don't go off the rails completely, in a couple years' time, like, you're putting this guy in, like, all-time great EU conversations. Because, yeah, this has been a crazy start to a career in Grands.
The sky's the limit. The sky's literally the limit for him. And playing with someone like Teeny was the perfect match for him. Someone who has that is basically, it was just a straight upgrade from Khan. Someone who is the exact same type of aggressive, but has the experience in grand finals, knows what it takes to perform well in a grand finals. And yeah, Chap and his ability, like, he's an insane fighter, but it's not just down to, like, he doesn't just clean up fights within seconds. He is just a crazy player at all aspects of the game, from Osborne to endgame. He is just, we are looking at one of the future talents for the for the foreseeable future.
I think one of the ways to look at his gameplay as well is if you watch him from his POV, he plays like an FNCS grand finalist. So you think of like zero ping, super mechanical players, and like I always just say like Noah Riley, Chapter 2, you think of maybe some of the way like Marius plays, and that doesn't always necessarily carry over to like a grand finals. Look at the way that like I think Thomas HD and Malabuka plays, the slow, like I watched a random solo Cash Cup game where he dropped like a 30 bomb and I was like, oh, he's just going to be crazy mechanical. And it's like, no, he plays slow, he plays methodical, he plays good angles. And it's like, it's funny because when obviously last season we saw people being like, Jab's cheating, he's cheating, his awareness is so good. And then I watched him play and I'm like, yeah, it is so good.
Yeah,
like, you're right.
Awareness,
It's so good. He's got great awareness. He plays slow. He's methodical. And now when it comes to grand finals, like you think he's the less experienced player from like out of him and Teeny, but like in terms of damage stats, they tied almost entirely. Like they were both like 5th and 6th or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I think it's the way that he approaches and his attitude as well. Like, he doesn't seem like, when you're a young, very good fighter, mechanical player, a lot of those guys always end up having like a lot of ego and they end up being like, yo, I'm the best player, I'm this. Like when they dropped that 35 kill win in Heats, he literally was in my chat and he was like, dude, Cheeny's just the greatest player I've ever played with. He carried me so hard, It seems like, I bet you the comms in that duo is like, Teeny telling him what to do, and he's like, yep, I'll follow you. Yep, that's my bad. That's me. Okay, my bad. I feel like he's that type of player, and he knows the opportunity that's given to him, and he has room to improve, and I think he's taking that full force.
Yeah. No, big ups to Chap. I expect to see much more of him. I'd love to see him just do crazy on LAN as well. I feel like it'd be such a great story.
Chaff and Teeny on land and they pop off.
Oh,
What
man.
world are we living in where that's now turned the story, you know?
Camping Peterbot and Pollo's chest gave him a
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Come on,
Inject-
baby.
Did you see Teeny did like a Teeny strat on SETI in like the 11th game
Yeah,
in
and it
endgame?
screwed them out of like top 3 or something. I
Yeah,
think,
he
no?
like
Oh,
dropped. He just dropped like a big pot and some ammo and stuff in an old box.
I don't know
and
how
he just
Seti fell for
ran
that.
I don't know how
straight
Seti
into it.
did. Yeah.
The classic.
I'm telling you, man. He there's something going on in here in Teeny's brain with that. But anyway, yeah.
That game would have been so good for City and Cammy as well, because like the zone pulled on Cammy as a solo. Like it was just
In the
set
water,
up to
yeah.
be just the best game for City and Cammy ever, and he just dies to the dumbest shit. It's so sad.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next award. EU Finals MVP. The third place runner-up was Swizzy. Swizzy, it was very close between the person who got third and the person who got second. Swizzy, I mean, what to say about Swizzy? We've said a lot already, to be fair, earlier on in the show, but to reiterate with Swizzy, I mean, the run he's on this past year, crazy. Just like some of the best individual performances we've seen in FNCS history. Top player. I mean, he obviously had a big solo clutch. I think was his one on day 1 or day 2.
Day 2. He had a solo clutch on day 1, which wasn't so good. They had another solo clutch on day 2, which was really good.
It was 100 point from 50-50, yeah.
Yeah, like just crazy stuff. I mean, again, like we said earlier, Swizzy's just top level, top of EU, top of the world of Fortnite right now in terms of the way he's been playing.
I hope what this Swizzy story shows is if you are in a minor region and you do feel like you're that much better than everyone else, you should take the step to a major region. Because what are you gonna say, Boop?
That's funny because after that performance, I have had DMs from 2 Middle East teams asking me where they should move to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, like, I think,
I-
you know, people realizing, like, hey, my fucking region sucks. Like, it's time for me to become Swizzy. So I think
why wouldn't
that's
you?
interesting. It's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
Why wouldn't you? Because Swizzy has shown that it doesn't matter the region you're on. If you're good enough, like, you are just good enough. Like, he has shown he is one of the best fighters on the region. The skill ceiling for him is so far beyond like a lot of the top players we have right now. And I just wonder, like, as you said, Boop, Middle East players, Asia players, hopefully Alex and whether we talked about them, moving to big regions to try and make a name for themselves or just get better practice for themselves.
Yeah.
Top 10 is easy, right? So
Yeah.
All right. In terms of the person who came second place, and like, I mean, it was very close between this person and Swizzy. It was like when you're adding up the points, it was like a 1 point difference. Cammy came second place, the runner-up for FNtasia EU Finals MVP. I mean, Cammy was just incredible, man. Some of these solo clutches, just the overall like performance from Cammy, it felt like he was doing so much. You know, when you watch the games and when we saw them, the little we saw them on the broadcast, it was always just something you could big up Cammy on. I made a TikTok from a moment from day 1 where it was a game where he was like solo almost like the whole game. Like he had to play solo for like, you know, it's like 6 bloody zones or something, maybe even more than that, actually. But he's rotating through, and it's just like the most big dick rotate ever.
I know the one.
where-
It's like he's like invisible. His mic provides up.
Like Thomas is holding that side of the zone, and like nobody shoots him once, and he doesn't build. And I'm like, okay, he's gonna have to build in a sec, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we know he's gonna have to build in a second. Like, and he just didn't build, and then he just runs in perfectly into zone. He plays out the rest of that end game. Again, it's just similar stuff where he's just running around in like the moving zones, and it's like nobody can see him. I just didn't get it. And he always seems to have those kind of moments in every Grands, every EU big tournament. Cammy's just incredible, man.
I think this season has been one of my favorite seasons from Cammy, like watching him, because you know you go from thinking and theory crafting about the water bending, you know, to this FNCS Grands, where I feel like this is one of the best Cammy has played individually in for an FNCS Grand Finals. It did feel like he was putting the weight of the duo on his back, and he was performing every single game. He was solo clutching to the maximum every game, and you know, his as we saw, the damage stats for him are insanely high. And I think you saw by his tweet afterwards how disappointed he is. He probably felt there was so much more in the tank there, potentially for a win.
I was going to go ahead.
Oh, your camera's cut off, but it's not for a second there. But yeah, I was going to say, like, this was the season where, like, you know, I feel like Cammy was so disappointed by not winning. He made a tweet which was basically along the lines of "fuck the wings," which I thought was very funny. You know, and I feel like he was probably, I've not spoken to him, but he's obviously probably very upset because he was like, historically they've not been the hardest workers as a duo, but this season they've really put in the practice and really come up. And like, it just shows how good they are that, okay, we really grind a season, boom, third. We're in contention for winning. Like we're really in the top spot there. Whereas, obviously kind of what we talked about against Vino and Tayson earlier, where that, that same story applied, but the result wasn't necessarily, the same.
It's also historically felt that Cammy and Cedi were never really in contention to win an FNCS. And this felt like in a long time, this was the first one, like, hey, they could actually do it, and they were the team rivaling. And like you said about the damage stats, like the damage from Cammy himself says enough. He was third place in damage with 10,400.
Crazy.
And Cedi wasn't even in the top 10, right? For
Wow.
reference.
Okay, I want to counter that
because the
because
weapons. Right?
Sorry to cut you off, but that was against like roll compression more than anything.
Yeah. But
still,
even then,
enough,
it's like
right?
you never expect to see Cammy anywhere near top 3 in damage stats. Like that's just not where you put those guys. I think it says a lot just how like hungry they are still. I mean, it feels weird that they've not want to do FNCS.
Online,
like that just that feels weird, especially with, again, like you said, like how well they've done in the like international lands. It's like the fact that they still haven't won to do FNCS feels very weird. But
I want to caveat, right, because I saw a comment which I think was one of the dumbest comments I've ever read, where it's like, are you not going to mention that Cammy and Cedi have never come top 3 in an FNCS online before? And I'm like, yeah, they placed 5th, 9th, 5th, 4th, 5th. It's like,
some of the most consistent.
Then they won
the
a land and they came second in the other land. Like, bro, you're like, you have to nitpick a stat so much to be able to say they've not come top 3 in an online. And now they have, obviously, this season, which is also quite funny. But, I thought that was funny when we were doing our prediction stream.
Yeah, now people like to always do that. They like cherry pick the stat that makes it look the way they want, But
I know.
Yeah, look at the bigger picture. And with that being said, I think there won't be any surprises about who the winner is. The FNtasia EU Finals MVP is Vanyak. I mean, I just round of applause for that brother. The way that brother played, hey, crazy. Before we talk about Vanyak, I had a discovery this weekend. Shout out to Julia, who does like the socials for FNCS, or she used to. I think she stopped now, actually. But she is Russian, and she told us that Vanyak's name isn't Vanyak. His name is Vanya, and then the kek is like lol in Russian.
Yeah.
His name is just like Vanya lol. But for years, we've all just called him Vanyak. And I've met him in person. I met him at, Gamers 8 last year. And I was like, yo, Vanyak, man, what's up? And he was like, yo, what's up? Like, he never was like, by the way, my name's actually Vanyak. It's Vanya.
So,
but yeah. I don't know.
To caveat this, I got this comment on YouTube when I talked about them, right? And I was like, is that true? So I went on his Twitter and I started sliding because I was like, surely his org would tweet him as like Vanya or at some point something. They all said like Vanya Kick or whatever, right? So then I go to like his signed up name that he is on ESL or whatever it was, and it's Vanyak 22. I was like, oh. So maybe it is. I was like, maybe
he's been gaslighted so far into believing it now.
But honestly, that might be like the thing, right? Everyone just calls him Vanyak, so he might just be like, because what I did when like I got told that, I was like, I went to check on every social if he's always Vanya Kek. I was like, is it always Vanya Kek on everything? And for the most part, like it was. So I was like, damn, wait, it's never just been like Vanyak on anything. So I was like, if you're saying it is on ESL, then maybe it is. But yeah,
I don't know. It's still up for. I might DM him and ask him.
Yeah, we should just ask him. Should we call you Vanya or Vanyak? Yeah, like we should just ask him. But for the rest of the segment, I'm just gonna call him Vanyak because that's what I'm used to.
If it helps, he's playing with someone called Senyak 888 right now. No cake.
Okay, well, it's getting juicy here. I mean, what a performance from. I think it's a well-deserved Finals MVP. Some of the solo clutches he had were absolutely huge. I think a lot of people are probably just happy because, for me personally, when people ask me like, as a caster, like who are your favorite players to cast over? He's been one of mine for years now because he just always provides some of the most entertainment moments in the grand finals. And I'm so happy, found a duo in Swizzy that gave him the potential to win in FNCS because, it didn't feel like he had that with Kami in the past and other people he's played with.
It's been a long time coming from, right? Like we knew the potential of this guy with that incredible 10 plus kill solo clutch back in when he played with Kami. It felt like he's never really been given an opportunity with an actual like top tier Russian-speaking duo. No disrespect to Karmi or Sined, both great players. But like, you know, he's on another level. If you make someone like Swizzy the second best player on the team, then you already know like you're actually insane, right? So very well deserved, and it's been a long time coming from for sure.
And to sort of add to what you're saying there, I don't know if I think that Vanyak is better than Swizzy, but at least it's a question to me. This is the first time where there's ever even that question with his duo partner, where he's just very not like obviously the best player on his team. Which and the fact that as soon as he gets that, it's just like a win. It's just crazy to me. Like,
I think it's like I said this kind of when I was doing my predictions. They just have both so much individual skill, and I think that really showed in the amount of like when they were set up for a solo clutch. Both Swizzy and Vanyak, the reality was they performed. They got crazy good solo clutches, tons of points saved up, and like the way in which they solo clutch, like the Vanyak, the 2 solo clutch he did. One of them was just hide and seek, sneaking about, doing something.
That one was insane.
That one was their movement and the awareness in that was so good. And then the final one, we ended up winning with like the wing strat onto TD was like
in that moment. Like, how do you even like think? That bro,
unreal,
crazy.
Unreal.
Like, his first accident wasn't even to like reform. There was like a big brick in front of him. I thought he's gonna farm that brick, and all of a sudden the camera just pans to high ground, and he's just going up. Yeah, it's insane.
It's like he farms the brick, places the ball, Instagram is man.
He is becoming one of the players with the biggest clutch potential out of any player we have on EU. Like every single finals we have, it feels like he just has some insane clutch that should just never happen.
Yeah, every time. It's so consistent. So consistent. Big ups to Vanyak. I'm really excited to see how these guys continue to do. We finally, again, like we said earlier, we finally get to see Swizzy on LAN. Them two, I'm sure they'll keep cooking. Let's move on to the NA awards. I mean, we kind of know where this one's going, innit? Like,
I'm curious what
skip everyone else, bro.
Well, that's where I think most of the conversation will be in terms of who got third place, who was the third runner-up. I can reveal that the third runner-up for NA Finals MVP was Canada. Canada received the most points and most votes for that one, and I think it's understandable why.
Yeah, he is. Is watching him is a roller coaster. I feel like watching Canada they will always have decent enough surge, but every game it feels like they're scuffed. But then every end game they maximize it to literally as far as possible with the mats they have every single time without fail, right? And for a season where Canada and Cooper literally got their landing spot yoinked away from them, Epic Games decided to just get rid of the yacht for no reason, and they still managed to perform in this level. And for Canada to work around Surge, obviously the Grimgate situation, like as in, not end up getting keyed too much by Peterbot and Pollo, and sort of the way they ended up playing, I feel like it's huge props to Canada. And with all the snaking as well, him and Cooper obviously ended up coming out on top, which we had the conversation of, did anyone actually benefit from it? Obviously, Canada ended up doing so.
I need someone in my life that supports their duo like Canada supports their duo, like the every single time, like Cooper, ages, like you have to, how can you not love that shit every single time you hear it? It absolutely blasts your ears out, but it's great. And the way they played, like I think they had like they were a duo that was formed by chance, right? Because they weren't even meant to play together, because Ages went and snaked with Booga, and then Cooper, same thing. And then they didn't look like a great duo until like the last 2 weeks, when everything just seemed to click. Everything around Grimgate seemed to help them, and it just was so incredibly consistent in upper bracket and lower brackets. Like they weren't winning games, which is completely fine, because you don't need to win games to win FNCSs sometimes, but Canada's he's probably, if anyone wants to learn how to play Fortnite, just listen to the way he talks and speaks to his duo and how he controls the game, because that man, he's got to figure it out.
Also have to remember, this season their spot got nuked. They were a yacht team. Like they lost their spot this season, and it still ended up working out really well for them. Big fan of Canada, man. Super entertaining to watch. I mean, I think it's pretty well deserved. I don't know if anyone has any more thoughts, but I think we sort of know where the next two ones are going.
Get them started already.
Let's get them. Let's get it going. The runner-up for NA Finals MVP was Pollo. Pollo received, I think almost everyone voted for him as like the second place runner-up. So no surprises there. I mean, we do have to have a conversation about Pollo. Like a proper conversation about, because this guy is on one of the best runs we've seen from a player. Like, when you look at his placements over the past year, and you have to consider the fact that, like, so Pollo, in terms of like breaking onto the scene, in terms of like the grander FNCS, you know, audience, major one, it's rumored he's going to be playing with Booga, and all of a sudden everyone's like, who's this Pollo guy Booga's playing with, right? They don't end up playing with each other, but everyone's still just sort of like watching him to see, okay, what's he about? And the guy's just not disappointed once since. Like, at every single opportunity to just show people that he is like crazy and he is that guy, he's done so. And I think it's unfortunate because Peterbot is understandably getting so many plaudits, all the hype, all the, you know, whatever. Like, Pollo deserves a lot of hype. And I'm glad that he's starting to get a lot more acknowledgement in that regard, especially after that Grants performance.
It's also like Pollo has proven himself before. He placed one on LAN. He's 15 years old, so still very young, and so has like crazy like composure, and he's doing it all on 30 ping. You know, like he's this man on 0 ping. Holy shit! Like, the damage stats obviously favor very much in one side. I think it was like 18,000 to 8,000 for Peterbot, which is an insane stat in of itself when you're winning FNTasias with your duo. But like, I'd say the stats don't do him justice at all.
No, and the stats don't do him justice based on the roles that they play. You know, like he is the enabler of Peterbot. He always helps him put in whatever position he needs to be, whether it's like height position, being able to hold height, and then Peterbot's able to drop down and frag out while he's trying to play for heal off, or if it's in fights, always pinching, angling. He's like the ultimate support player to really, along with obviously Grimcoin, to enable like that duo to work as a whole.
And like, he can be that like all-star fragging player, which is part of what like impresses me the most. Like, he could be, you know, that guy on the team where he's just the fragging machine. You let him do whatever the hell he wants. But the fact that he's like slotted into this role where he's playing more supportive and he does it so well, and he still had again like a couple big solo clutches in Grands as well. Like, when you need him to step up and perform, he's done that. So, nah, man.
I mean, the run is it's 3rd, 5th, 2nd, 1st in the past for FNCS, which is
odd numbers.
This is ridiculous. And yeah, as you said, as we were talking about, it's like he has the ability to be that fragger. If we wanted on another duo, he could just be that guy. But he is the perfect, as Raz, their coach, said, he is the perfect teammate for Peterbot. He lets Peterbot does what he needs to do, and he is just there he is there to support every decision, and he is there to maximize the duo to them. What's Reese in the back?
Yeah,
why is he
peeking through the door here?
But yeah, he's there to maximize their potential, and it's incredible to watch.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Reese,
Yeah,
okay.
this is dancing in the
No,
background.
Mela
Stretching.
came
He's
home,
been-
home, so I was just like, yeah, here's where the camera can see your feet if you walk past.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not the feet, no.
Yeah.
no. They can't give that out for free, so.
Not on the big dogs watch.
Not on the
not
big
on the big
dogs
dog.
watch. All right, back to regular programming. Drum roll, please. Surprise, surprise. The FNtasia NA Finals MVP is
Booga!
no.
Booga.
It's Peterbot. We all know it was gonna be Peterbot. I mean, come on.
He broke every record. Any and every
Yeah.
record that has ever been set in the history of Fortnite, he just broke it. Kills, damage, placement, anything. It is
Aura,
yeah, motion.
Very
was
important
through the
metric was
roof.
yeah, the motion, like it's crazy. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a season like this unless next season they do the exact same thing.
They
But literally, it's like I don't think we'll ever see this level of domination from a player. Not only just duos, obviously solos matters nowhere near as nuts, but still like showing it like he is just that guy. It's just not like, oh, it's just a lucky thing. He's been that guy for 2 seasons now. He is just so insane to watch, and it feels like he is. And I didn't think it was possible, but maybe the NA players are right. It's like you don't know what it feels like to play against Peterbot, like because the way, like the way he's playing and the records he's breaking is unmatched.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to say, man. I'm just gonna hit the retweet on what you said. It's like,
Yeah.
And
And what we said earlier.
Yeah,
Every-
and
and
what
all-
we've
the
been
past 4
saying,
weeks,
yeah, what we've been saying at any given opportunity, he's just undoubtedly, like,
Is he the best player in the world right now?
Yes.
It has to be.
Quite
It has to be.
obviously. He
I
just
would-
has to, you know.
Yeah, had he played like he did in the qualifiers and semi-finals in grand finals, I probably would have said no. I would have put maybe Swizzy and Vaniak above her in that regard. But watching how he played in grand finals and how he could actually play like a grand final type lobby, not just WK everyone, like I agree 100%.
All I'm saying is, I think, like I mentioned at the start of the episode, like this is the new era of North America, and I feel like there's not much people can do against this duo or against Peterbot individually. Like that, it's just gonna happen again. I would probably bet a lot of money next season we're gonna get similar levels of, maybe not exact similar because of the meta, but like,
Bro,
I think it's very
season.
clearly them winning. I don't
Summer
know.
season, there's gonna be something crazy next season. There's always something crazy in summer, bro. And bro, there'll be something crazy that they will be able to abuse and just be, you know, dominating again. I'm sure of it. Yeah, wow, what a season, what a finals performance. Every record broken. Yeah, best player in the world right now. And as we move on to player of the season, surprise. This one, there is one interesting aspect of player of the season in terms of the third place runner-up. So it was tied between three people. And we've spoken about two of them. So two of the people that received, you know, votes for player of the season were Swizzy and Cammy. And we've spoken about them, and understandably, I think over the course of the season, both of them have been pretty impressive. I'd probably say over the course of the season, Swizzy probably showed a lot more than Cammy did throughout, you know, just the whole season. But the person who also got, you know, some votes for player of the season was Marius, interestingly enough. I'm not sure who. I want to go check.
I did not vote that.
I did not vote Marius. TikTok.
So it was either, that means it was either DJ, Mini, or Boot. Oh, not Boot. Sorry, or who's
SVG.
SVG.
Yeah. One of them. Oh,
DJ.
Destiny said it was him. DJ said it was me that voted for him.
He must have been maxing out the aura meter on this one for sure. Right? Yeah.
I mean, with Marius, like the start of the season, it was a competition between Peterbot and Marius. It felt like we were just going into an era where these are going to be the two best fighters in each region. They are going to dominate on each region. The way Marius's season fizzled out from upper bracket and lower bracket not looking too strong, and then Grands on the similar vein. I would love to see Marius. Now he's kind of got his stocks up to play with, because he could get an easy high tier 2 player, like, you know, I just said that we talked about like Pink or Janice or someone like that. I'd like to see him take the next step. Third the third best player of the season, if you take in consideration the start of the season, I could see it. You know,
I could see it as well, yeah.
But obviously with his Grands placement, it's hard to say. But I think the next step for him is just like get someone who has got the experience in grand finals, knows what it takes to place extremely high and qualify to the globals, and he has a bright future ahead of him.
Low key, that's part of why I don't like your Marius and Savage Cook, because they're just gonna stay conned. And he's just gonna.
Oh yeah, Savage is gonna be conned.
He'll never ever not be like. I don't think Marius wants to experience what he's gone through this Grands, where he's, you know, just conned, right? Like he'll you know, we want to see him play. I don't agree with DJ's vote, but like when you do look at it, like the first part of the season, Marius couldn't go wrong. Everything he touched turned to gold. Like it was just all perfect. And so for that reason, like I can see it. You asked the TikTok kids, he's probably the second player of the season. So yeah, it's big up to Marius.
Who's two?
Who's 2 and 1?
Who's 2 and 1? Well, yeah, I'm not even gonna try bait yet. It's the same as NA Finals MVP. Pollo got second place, and Peterbot was the player of the season. I mean, what a surprise! What a surprise! Best season from those two. The best season we've seen from any team ever. You know, we already talked about it. It's the best season we've seen from any team. The best individual performance I think we've seen from any player ever in Peterbot this season. Like, I don't think we've seen anything close in terms of an individual performance over the course of the season. It will be hard to top ever. Like, because I don't think we've seen a seasonal performance from an individual even close. Like, I don't think there's anybody that's even come close individually over the course of a season.
Yeah, it's
So-
just like there was not one tournament, maybe you could say off bracket, but even then there's not one tournament where they've taken their foot off the pedal. Like it felt like every season they're topping every stat, they're winning every game, they're dominating, they're dropping high kills, and then Grands obviously they play more methodical, but it feels like every season they were playing 100%, every tournament, sorry, they're playing 100% this season, and it was incredible to watch. And as a non-believer, I was like, surely at some point it stops and people, maybe play around it. But it felt watching that grand finals, it's like there was nothing people could do to stop him really.
The Vegas, the Vegas odds would have been fucking incredible to see on these guys to win
imagine.
the FNTS. Like you'd have to probably pay $10K to win $100. Like, it's actually insane.
Yeah. I mean, any sort of final thoughts on Peterbot and as we reflect over this season?
Grimgate wasn't the issue. That's what my final take on it.
Yeah, it's like Grimgate obviously like it made their playstyle work even better. It made it, where they dominated this much. But I feel like you put them at any POI, they're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not the same thing, but like
the level
they're
of
winning.
Yeah,
they're
that's
winning
still
guaranteed.
I don't say they win, but like you're still predicting them to win in a sense. Like I think you put them in another spot, you open up the opportunity for someone else to win.
Yeah.
But I think, there's obviously still within contention to win if they land anywhere, no doubt.
They came second last season. What was it like in that?
Yeah,
spot?
that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, but like to say they win 100%,
You can quote me on this hot take. They're winning next season. Clip it.
What hot take?
take?
What?
Smoking the
I'm the fucking. I'm the one.
Bloody hell, he's burning.
Peterbot in EU.
Yeah.
Peterbot in EU.
Yeah.
That's what we need to see.
I mean, yeah. Okay, do you guys think he has that same season on EU?
No, because
Yes.
Malibu and Mersash contest him.
I think he's
Same
like
area.
contested by another EU team. Then, like that's the reality. I don't know if EU teams would give a shit to not contest him there. Like
But
you're
we said
gonna
that
have
about
someone like
Malibu.
Malibu.
But they didn't get
No,
called.
but
they get
Malabuka
con-
would be the team
Yeah, that's
contesting them,
why.
though. That's the
Yeah.
difference,
Okay,
or something along those lines. It depends if they choose like a dudded drop spot, but I don't think they get the same respect.
They
Our
wouldn't
teams
get as
don't get the
conditioned.
respect, so why would the NA teams
ask
get the
Queasy,
respect?
And
Yeah,
ask Thomas, ask Venno and Tayson. Like the conditioning isn't gonna work. It just by pure luck, if a 500 PO Italian team that plays normal 24/7 session made grand finals and they end up landing Grimgate in the whole season, they're landing there the whole season. You're not kicking them off there. If they were given the same room and the same respect as they were in NA, there's no doubt in my mind they would have won EU FNCS. I don't.
yeah.
I think you'd be stupid to think otherwise.
No, makes
Harry.
sense. I mean, didn't get roasted as much today as I thought he would. I thought
Yeah,
he'd get
fuck
roasted.
Coach Cherry.
Yeah.
Fuck Coach Cherry in particular.
Yeah, fuck me, but fuck him. Well,
You're getting it from every angle. Like I went back and I saw like in like Aussie's chat, like people were just flaming. Yeah, so in the broadcast, people were. You got flamed by Minnie on the broadcast. He was like, certain coaches didn't believe Queasy and Thomas would do well. I'm
Single
like,
greatest
"Ah."
marketing campaign ever for
I'm
Harry.
not
I
gonna say
think, yeah.
Coach Harry viewers fucking
Skyrocketing.
Yeah.
right now. This is
I
a
went back
genius
down.
strat.
Just wait till hot takes next season. I'll be
The
there.
but do you know what now happens next? So next, right? The next progression for Harry is now he has to have like a crazy take that actually comes true. Then people are like, wait,
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
he's
this guy's
cooking.
cooking.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard for him though,
It's just so wrong all the time.
Yeah, it's just I'm just so stupid all the time. Like, how do I even?
we didn't even mention Harris and Scavi yet.
I
This
know.
season, or Queasy
Oh,
Thomas's placement.
my
Oh,
God,
that's
yeah.
true.
The
We
list
actually
can go
let you
on and
off.
on and on and on.
Yeah, they kind of owned you. Queasy and Thomas really did just own you.
They actually own him. Yeah.
Like,
Thomas owned me. I don't Queasy, but Queasy's too nice about it.
Queasy could have been much meaner, but I've seen him be meaner for less.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
But that's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
At least
True.
a little bit.
Aya
of
Bafo
respect
was
from
fishing in a
Queasy.
solo cash cup and got tweeted at for maybe a month straight.
That's true.
That could have been you.
Yeah, that could have been me.
That is very, very true.
But you didn't say you could buy his whole family, to be fair. So it's
No,
a
that's
little
true.
different.
True.
Yeah. Well, we do have the new season coming up this weekend on Friday. We got it coming. I've not seen any of like the leaks or anything, other than the fact that fencing fields might be gone. Apparently, like that's like the thing that's circulating. How you guys feeling about new season? You guys excited for it before we wrap up the pod?
Cannot wait. Cannot
Yeah.
wait. The new season, like, as much as it feels like that break between, between week 2 and heats, it was bad, but now we have only 5 days till a new season. It's such a good feeling. Everyone motivated after grand finals, and then the new season hit. Yeah, and new season hit straight away. And it's like everyone's gonna be playing, everyone's gonna be grinding, figuring out the meta. And what's gonna be exciting to watch is how even this season, where we had months and months to like figure things out, the meta evolves still loads over the FNCS. When the FNCS is 3 weeks into the new season, there's not going to be time. The meta will evolve whilst the season goes on. People are going to figure things out, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
I personally can't wait for all the teams that are going to grind every scrim session. It's going to be different to last season. It's going to be, this is my season. If they bring back the spaz, man, it's happening. The one thing I'm actually serious that I'm actually very excited by, potentially some of the leaks about the core stuff, because I loved core meta back in trios. I thought there was something spicy about it. So I think a core meta, the servers are looking a lot better. A little core meta might not be too. I wouldn't mind it. Maybe that's
you're by yourself on this.
That's a hot take, but I think
it's
great.
Yeah. I love just driving into Storm and just having the freest rotations, no matter where you draw.
The drip.
I was prepared. Look.
Just got the drip.
But there's one moment you were prepared for. There's one moment.
Jesus. All right. Well, hopefully not. Big ups to everyone that's listening and watching live on Boop's channel, on the YouTube as well. I did want to give a special shout out to one person in particular, Nixty. Somebody called Nixty. He always replies on Spotify. When you listen on Spotify, they give you like a Q&A at the end. And he always just replies W podcast. Keep it up, guys. Great work. So shout out to Nixie. Hopefully he listens to this episode as well, and he hears a shout out for him. But yeah, just a reminder for you guys as well watching. If you're watching the live stream right now and there's anything you missed, you can listen back on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for all the support. The pod's been going crazy. I think the last ep had double the viewers of any other ep we've done. People seem to really be enjoying the pod. We want to take things to the next level. We got a bunch of fun ideas for things to do in the little off season we have, which isn't much of an off season. And moving forward as well. So it's been really fun. We've been enjoying it. At least I hope you guys have been enjoying it. But yeah, now we got more coming on the way. So yeah, big thanks to everyone that listens.
Big love.
Big. As much as even though the comments and whatever, Coachy, you bias, it's been podcast has been
Coachy, you bias, Coach.
But you know what it is though, a lot of these people actually do really like you, but they just
I know it
part in the joke. It's it's just part of the joke. But you're gonna stay live after?
Probably not. There's not much to do right now, so probably not. No.
Fair enough. All right. I was gonna say people should stay, but yeah, I guess not.
We're gonna do some wish lists tomorrow for probably on tomorrow. On Thursday we'll do a new season wish list, which will probably be the same as every season. Bring back Cypher, ban the cheaters, this and that. And I'll post on Twitter, get 600 likes again. It's a cycle that always continues. So there's console dual cash cup happening, but dude, how can you watch that shit after an FNCS grand finals? You'd have to be
FNCS console cash cup. This is it.
Harry's been begging me and Minnie to play that, and I don't know why.
This is content I need to see. Is Levin and Minnie stream them playing console cash cup? This is what I want to see.
It's not happening. You got any other plans though, Boop? For the new season, wishlist stream tomorrow.
Wishlist stream, and then we'll be up at 6 a.m. looking at leaks and stuff. So that's it. And then playing 2 hours after I realize how fucking boring it is for me to play because I get shit on every game. Maybe run up the podcast squads.
Should we do a squad? FNtasia squad.
Let's we just talk about random shit while it happens. Yeah, that might be it. That might be the plan.
I'm actually down to run up the FNtasia squad.
Don't know if you want to play with 11 and Frank.
Reese doesn't.
Reese is he needs to make TikToks.
I do actually need to make TikToks on day off. I ain't playing day one. So
we'll sub in someone else. Yeah.
Sub in.
We need to survive.
It'll be hard
least,
to find someone that can match my skill level, of course. I know you'll be looking for a long time.
Yeah, well, that should be fun. Reese, what you got? Well, we know what you got planned. You got a YouTube video coming up, TikToks for the new season.
YouTube video coming out Thursday. Not going to do a big new season video when it comes out because they're always irrelevant 3 days later because it's all theory crafting. So I'm just going to do a bunch of TikToks and an extra video on weekend to release, and then spend some time on a better video mid next week. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a good. I hope it's a good new season because if it's not, then Fortnite's rats, mate.
Yeah, it's the end of it, obviously.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Lego Fortnite, here we go. So,
Harry, what you got going on this week, brother?
not a lot. Just waiting for the new season. Gonna probably do some more VODs, maybe watch some viewers shout at them to say they're bad, stuff like that. And then yeah, similar to Boop, we'll be streaming the start of the new season, playing for a couple hours, and then realizing I'm too bad to play, and then getting off and figuring stuff out. But no, I just can't wait for the new season. It feels so weird to me. Like every season feels so long. Like it feels like we've had this meta forever now. And it'll be nice and fresh to have something new.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to
What about you,
disappoint
Levin?
when
What are
this-
you doing? Tell us.
Oof, me, I mean, yeah, just same as everyone, getting ready for new season. Hopefully, I feel like not ill in like a couple of days' time, because it's getting a bit boring now. Constantly having to cough every couple seconds. But yeah, I'll play new season. I might, jump in with these guys and play a bit. Yeah, we got more content coming out. I actually do want to start I actually have some ideas for like personal content I want to make. So maybe we'll see that come next season. But yeah, for the most part, I'm just chilling, man. I'm out here. So
DreamHack's in 10 days as well, by the way. For
yes, yeah, DreamHack's next week. It's next week, so that should be fun. I'm sure we'll cover that on next pod a bit. We'll give a bit of a preview if we can. I don't know how. Is there coverage of DreamHack? Are we going to be able to watch it?
They tweeted.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just tweeted that if you want to watch it, you can get permission or something. I don't know how it's gonna work.
Your permission as a co-streamer.
So I guess there's gonna be a clean feed. Will be my guess, because it's gonna be impossible to watch otherwise, because people aren't gonna stream. So
yeah. All right. Cool. Well,
I guess we'll be watching it.
Yeah. See you guys again next week. We will be back for new season talk. Way too early predictions about the meta and the game and other fun stuff. And thank you all for joining us. We will see you all very, very soon. Peace out.